And I would really appreciate it if you would stop Rob Taylor from blathering on and on.
Opinions expressed by talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-lined broadcast bunker on the beautiful southern coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your weekly political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
In today, I want to thank you. We've got a very special guest joining me. I've kind of veered from politics today for the first part of the show. For the first hour and a half, I've got a really good interview with a gentleman who has this new process of turning ammonia into fuel, hydrofuel. And it's a very interesting proposition he has. If this is functionable, if this can work, this is going to change. It's going to be a game changer for a lot of places, because this is going to be really cheap energy that we can produce and eliminate carbon emissions. If you're worried about carbon emissions, I'm not worried about carbon emissions. If the politicians tell you they're worried about carbon emissions, tell the politicians to shut up, because they emit way too much carbon emissions themselves. So that's where we're at today. And I'm going to jump to this interview because it's a really good one. And it's Greg Vezina. Vezina, he's from Canada. He's in Canada when he gives this interview. And it takes about an hour and a half. He describes what the process is, his machine, what it does, how it can help people. And it's really good stuff. And it's really kind of interesting because he was quoting Milton Friedman while simultaneously criticizing the Trump administration. So I found it an incredibly interesting conversation. And I'm going to get him back on to talk more about politics later down the line when we get a chance, because he is a Canadian. And since he's a businessman, I would like to find out what the tariffs, what effect it is having on Canadians, and especially people who are in business in Canada. Well, I'd like to find out more about that from people who actually live there, instead of trying to trust our regular news, because you can't trust those news outlets. It's lamestream media. No matter whether it's right or left, they're going to feed you an agenda. So find out for yourself is what I always say. And that's what I do. And so I hope you enjoy this interview. I had a great time doing it. I did it this past Friday. It was a beautiful day here. And I hope you enjoy. And with that, here is Greg Vezina from Hydrofuel Canada. Hello, Coos County. I want to thank you for joining me today. We're going to be talking with a gentleman who has been working with, I hate to call it alternative energy, because it's an energy that actually has been around for a while. We're going to be talking about hydrofuel, but he has found a way to capitalize on it and utilize it in a much better and utilitarian way. And we're going to be talking about that. This gentleman is Greg Vezina. He is the chairman and CEO of Hydrofuel Canada Incorporated, the world's leading developer of NH3 ammonia fuel and energy technologies. He has 45 years of experience in NH3 ammonia production and utilization applications, including fuel conversion systems and related technologies for automotive and power generation. So the man seems to know what he's talking about if he's been doing this for 45 years. And joining me right now is Greg Vezina. Am I pronouncing that right? It's Vezina, or is it Vezina?
It's actually Vezina.
Vezina. I
Yeah.
apologize, sir.
It's all right. It's a soft E. That pronunciation comes from French, and the famous Vezina name for the goalie for the Montreal Canadiens that they named the Vezina Trophy. The goalie for the best goalie in NHL is named after George Vezina from the Montreal Canadiens. Anyway, there you go. Hello, and yes, thank you for inviting me on your show.
No problem. I was thinking Italian, but French works. French works.
There's an Italian there too. It's a long story. There's some Romanian. There's some Ukrainian. My grandfather's name was Vezina. My grandmother's maiden name was Vezina, Vizena, and it turned out a few generations before they were from the same family tree anyway. And if you go back far enough, we're all from the same family tree. So there you go.
That's right. That's what I always tell everyone. We're native Mediterraneans, all of us. We all came from Northern Africa at some point in time. So yeah, it's ancestry is an incredible thing. And one of the things that we've been dealing with here on the Southern Oregon coast is energy problems, the lack of energy. I mean, they're pulling out the hydro dams here. They don't have much to replace them. They were going to put up wind turbines at one point, and I wasn't a big fan of them. And and maybe down the road we'll find out what you think of them. And but we just haven't had a lot of success. So that's why I was kind of interested in hearing what you have to say. And I was incredibly interested that you've been doing this for 45 years. Can I ask you a question? You've been doing this for 45 years. Did you used to go to the fairs and demonstrate these vehicles?
No. We did a Trans-Canada drive, and we drove the vehicle across Canada from Edmonton to the capital of Ottawa, where we had a press conference on Canada's Constitution Day when we adopted our new constitution and charter. And the Governor General of Canada, who's the head of state, asked the Parliament to come out in the front steps and see our car. Former Governor General Ed Schreier is a big supporter. And so that's this, we have media clips from that on the website. We then went to Montreal, and then we went to Toronto as well. But our success was driving an ordinary passenger vehicle fueled by ammonia, across Canada. That we didn't need to go to any fairs after that.
Good. Well, I thought I've seen something similar to this in fairs being promoted. One of the things that I know I was involved with is we actually did a hemp car on hemp fuel across the United States, and which was quite interesting, because then when we to my own fair in Albuquerque, I had to go get a permit from the police to have the fuel in the fairgrounds, and you could dip your joints in it all day, and nobody's going to get high off this stuff. But it was funny because it was actually what Henry Ford designed one of the original cars that he created to run on was hemp fuel.
But there's a reason that these things weren't adopted, right?
Right.
One thing between a science experiment or a demonstration, and there's another thing to supply the, wait for it, boys and girls, $11 trillion global energy and chemicals out of $110 trillion global GDP. So when someone says we can be net zero in 2035, you got to get out your grade 5 math, and you just do it like this. Renewables are a great idea where they work, but not where they don't. Renewables take 3 to 1 to be base load, because even at 50% storage and regeneration efficiency, it's 3 to 1 for base load over existing hydrocarbons or feedstocks. All right. Now, renewables have a 15-year life. Right? So 3 to 1 over 15 years means we have to replace our entire global energy production and distribution system every 5 years. Now, the energy business has been around for 150 or more years. They have what, $2 quadrillion, $500 trillion invested there. So we're going to replace a $500 trillion infrastructure every 5 years. So it's going to take the entire global GDP to do it there, Greta. Okay, so no. The technologies that will succeed are the ones that can be adapted for grid scale capacity. Now, that's certainly not to say that renewables don't have a place to play. They absolutely have a place to play. The secret is if you don't have to store them.
And that's really what it is. They're generating energy, but the problem is the storage is huge. It's huge. And going back to the marijuana, like you were saying, we'd have to have fields and fields of land, convert it to grow pot to be able to have enough fuel. And so, I used to tell the hippies, look, this was a great idea to show people there's alternatives, but it's not practical, man. And, it's the
there's also energy density and mass balance. Okay. The reason ethanol is so bad is not because you're replacing the hydrocarbon with a hydrocarbon, and not totally because you've raised global food prices 40%. The reason is that ethanol only contains 75% of the energy that was in the diesel fuel and fertilizer used to make it. If you want to drop pollution by 25%, you don't do what America and Canada has done and increase ethanol from 10 to 15. You do what the EU has done, it's knocked it down to 3.9, and they're going to eliminate it entirely. So the beginning of our conversation was about these things happening, and the reason they happen or don't happen is policy. It's government grants and subsidies. It's politicians picking winners and making losers out of everything else. And what I've argued for 45 years is a level playing field. If I want to run my car on nuclear waste, I should be able to get a permit to do that. $1 million a mile, cash up front. How far would you like to drive, sir? So if we had a full cost economy, if we didn't have Canada has a carbon tax on petroleum carbon, but no carbon tax on non-petroleum carbon, which is 25% worse. So if we had a real price on the life cycle pollution, not only of energy, but of everything, then true market economics would actually let the best technologies get to the marketplace instead of the worst ones because some politician and lobby group got their foot in the door.
Well, Mitch McConnell's brother-in-law, he has to make a living somehow. Okay. So, but that's how it works though. Somebody's uncle, somebody's mother-in-law has a gas company, an oil company. And all of a sudden we got to sell, they're selling wind turbines. They were going to subsidize that at a huge percentage. You know what I mean? And it sounds great. I love the idea, but it's just not feasible. And the amount you're subsidizing doesn't even equal out on paper.
Well, the good thing about Donald J. Trump becoming president is full cost economics will come everywhere except the United States. So it's a good thing because countries and economies are now going to have to deal with external costs. And we got away with it. Okay. America said we'll be the world's leading superpower, and we'll be the police, and we'll make sure that the agreements that are signed and matter. And now America is we are capitalists, and if you don't pay us to survive, we will starve you to fucking death. And so that's where we are now, and that's just fine because countries like Canada and other countries don't any longer have to rely on one protector. I mean, can you imagine how pleased Donald Trump would be if the Prime Minister of Canada invited the President of Russia and China over to Ottawa to have a discussion about putting their missile bases on the Canada-US border to protect us from Donald Trump? Wouldn't
Yes.
that be just great? Wouldn't it be great if Canada said, you know what, America, we'd really, really like to teach you a lesson about the elephant and the mouse. And in 12 hours, we're closing our border. We are turning off all electricity and all energy and all materials and everything from Canada. We're shutting down. Now, Canada has a debt to GDP ratio of half of the United States. So while it might bankrupt us, you watch how fast they have a parade for Donald Trump in Dallas. Now, Canadians are too nice to do that.
I was
bad.
gonna say, yeah, that's
It's too bad. It really is too bad. Because to be brutally honest, there are some real assholes on this planet that somebody needs to teach a lesson to. And wouldn't it be great if it turned out being those good old Canucks? Well, guess what? Just watch. Just watch what's coming. Anyway, let's get back to saving the world.
Let's get back to saving the world. Yeah, because there's a lot of politics in play right now, and it's going to be very interesting for you guys. But to get back to the economics of this, the science of this, what is hydroelectricity? What can you do to benefit people who are just driving around in everyday cars, who are still sucking up that gas every day? What is it that hydrofuel can do for the average citizen?
Nothing. In the family car. And let's be, again, honest. It's all about energy density per pound. It's about cost per mile. And it's about safety and insurance and risk mitigation, okay? The last place you want to use ammonia is in a passenger vehicle, in a Ford pickup truck, driven by some guy from Texas who hasn't done a safety check on it in 20 years, okay? And he breaks open a tank or a fuel line, and he gasses a station wagon full of nuns. So it's the Hindenburg.
Okay? Right. And that's what we always think of when we think of hydrofuel, is the Hindenburg.
Well, no, hydrogen, not hydrofuel. Two different things. Hydrofuel is my trademark. I'll sue. So, but anyway, the point is that there are some really great places to use ammonia that are the lowest risk, that are the highest economic, environmental, and frankly, international trade balance policy. Okay, and I'll quickly go through that. The safety and handling of ammonia is a consideration in small passenger vehicles on the public roadways, in ocean freighters, in locomotives, in industrial equipment, mining equipment, stationary generators, in all of those applications, which are about 70% of the use of fuels, liquid fuels, it'll work really well. As soon as you get into niches where you increase the risk and cost, you defeat the purpose. You know, the solution to our energy and environment crisis is not one technology. It's multiple technologies that we finally figure out how to utilize together. And the best current example in science in the world of that is a hybrid. And the reason is you can have a much smaller battery for normal everyday passenger use, 50 to 75 kilometers. You'll never burn a fuel. However, in very cold environments or very warm environments where there's a heat or cooling penalty to batteries that is murder, having a small internal combustion engine that's at 30% efficiency, where 70% of the energy is waste heat to heat the battery, to heat the vehicle, or with a heat exchanger to cool the vehicle. So a hybrid right now is the very best technology. And the combustion engineering technology is 100 times better than it was a hybrid 20 years ago. I mean, it's just, they're just the amount of net pollution out of them versus all other life cycle applications is just not beatable today. There's no battery vehicle, pure BEV, that in life cycle can beat a hybrid. Can't do it. The weight penalty, the tire wear,
Right.
the particulate carbon, all the things that they don't tell you about, the mining of the lithium and the fires when they catch fire, and the amount of nasty stuff the fire department has to put on that goes into your sewers and your wastewater and then into your city water, etc. The risk ratio of hybrids versus any other technology today, and I think for at least another decade, is unbeatable. So there's the answer. Now, ocean freighters, they got to be off bunker oil by 2030. They got to do something. All the big freight engine manufacturers in the world, and now the freighter companies themselves, are building ammonia, CNG, LNG, multi-fuels capacity. Man Energy has their ammonia ship out this year, and they're putting out a retrofit for all bunker fuel. Well, that's 10% of the global pollution. And you can put ammonia in there, even co-burning ammonia with bunker, and cut emissions there to 80%. Well, that's an 8% knock on global pollution. And it's cheap because you got a single source fuel. It's all large capacity. There's a good one. Same thing in power generation, especially for emergency. If we had a white swan, if we had all the transmission knocked out, because of a solar flare, you'd lose your big transformers, but you wouldn't lose the little ones. If you had diesel/ammonia generators there, instead of taking 2 years to get the grid back up, you could actually have it in 2 weeks. And the reason there is, again, supply. We have this huge supply of ammonia, not quite across the country, but certainly in the middle, that the industry fills up in 20 weeks, and the farmers empty it in 2. Well, in a crisis, you could divert that supply. It's instant supply of 20 times the annual usage in spring and fall you've got there. So there are a whole bunch of places where using ammonia works, and there's a whole bunch where it doesn't.
So we'll have to be more specific on who's going to be using this, who's not going to be using this. This isn't going to be in your passenger car. This isn't going to be someone who's going to be driving around your average vehicle. You're talking about someone who's driving around a ship, a train, or what else? What other kind of vehicles would you?
And it's not only vehicles, I mean, look.
That's another thing, right? What else?
Your cement trucks, okay? Mining trucks, okay? I mean, these things burn a huge amount of fuel.
Right.
And again, diesel generators. If you're in a remote community, if you're in a mine, it costs you $25 a liter to fly in diesel fuel. Well, you can put in wind and solar that only operates, 6 hours a day, 6 months a year.
Right.
And you can make ammonia to run those generators at $5 maybe at the most. So there are huge savings in sectors where you can match the technology to make and utilize ammonia as a hydrogen storage vessel better than you could ever use hydrogen. And that's the reason you use ammonia. It is hydrogen snowflakes turned into a liquid. Hydrogen doesn't like to be hydrogen. It's either high pressures or very low temperatures. Ammonia, 100 psi at 50 C, 32 minus 32 as opposed to minus 300. So ammonia is the same as propane. We can handle it. We can store it. We can use it. And it's a lot cheaper and safer than hydrogen. But there's no form of anything on Earth that doesn't have risks. Water has risks. Gasoline and diesel has risks. So again, as I said in the beginning, it's a combination of risk, reward. How much risk are you going to take? What is the reward? And the reward is what's the economic benefits, what's the social benefits, and what's the environmental benefits.
They're trying to put an intermodal cargo container plant out here on the port because we are the only deep water port here in Coos Bay between San Francisco and Portland. And so they want to do that. And all the cranes out there, all the equipment out there, they want to run it off of electricity. Would that be something that would be applicable to running off of ammonia, off of hydrofuel?
Why would you take electricity to make hydrogen, to make ammonia, to store, to make electricity?
I have
If you're,
no
I'm,
idea.
well, I'm answering. I'm sort of being
Yeah.
pejorative here. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, it is all about energy balance and economics. If you're going to store electricity for 24 hours or longer, the only way to do it is by ammonia. The cost for batteries or wind or salt cavern or compressed air or pumping it up the mountaintop, or how many mountaintops you got in the world to store the world's electricity. If we're moving from 80% liquid fuels and 20% electricity to 80% electricity and 20% liquid fuels,
Right.
we're going to have to increase the grid 5 times.
Huge.
You think there's wildfires now, boys and girls? You just wait
Right.
and see. Oh, we're going to bury all those. Well, if you're going to bury them, you might as well build pipelines.
Right.
So there's the energy balance consideration always. At the end of the day, see, this is the thing. Politicians, if they just listen to 5-year-olds, if they just listen to basic grade 3 math and science, if they stop listening to the lobbyists and the special interests and the do-gooders and the people that think we're too stupid to make our own decisions and they have to make them for us. If you just actually let free enterprise become free,
Right.
winners would be winners and losers would be losers. And the largest sector of the economy would no longer be the industry of applying for government grants.
Right, absolutely. And like you said, then we wouldn't be having such a selection of certain industries in the market over other industries based on, like I said, someone's brother-in-law or someone's the lobbyist of the month. And it's huge between
Now let's talk about your electricity or your energy demand for that port.
Okay.
There's a couple other quick considerations to make. Okay.
All right.
They're starting to build fuel facilities for ammonia. And the fuel facilities in Rotterdam and other places will come to all ports. So that port will have to have a supply of ammonia. Well, now that might change the picture depending on a couple of other questions that had to get asked. Where is electricity coming from to run this place?
Right.
24 hours, right? So
Yep.
Where's it coming from? What's the cost per kilowatt hour? And what is the environmental consequence? If it's coming from a coal plant, it ain't a big winner, right? If it's coming from renewable, it is. But renewables are only running, if you're lucky, 12 hours a day, but usually 8 for base, okay? So where's the other 16 or 12 hours a day of electricity coming from? So if you get the supply or feedstock balance correct, then you look at utilization balance, okay? An electric motor is far more efficient than an internal combustion engine. Absolutely no question. Right. So in this application, you may be better off. You may be better off going all electric. Or if they need ammonia for fuel for ships, you don't want to make that grid scale and ship that. Because as soon as you ship it more than about 5 feet, you triple the cost. Okay? You want to make it where you use it. Oh, does anybody have a micro ammonia production technology that will make ammonia at end use from electricity and water? Oh, yeah, we do. So, and we have a patent. So, and we have a working prototype. So now all of a sudden, if you could take your excess renewable grid power, and instead of having to subsidize that with a diesel generator, you increase your renewable power, you can take that excess power in that port and you can make ammonia. And you can use that ammonia to supply fuel for the ships, and where it's cheaper for you to burn that ammonia than it is for you to buy electricity, you use that ammonia for storage. So there, you see, so there's an application where what I like to call is a cat in the hat plant. The cat in the hat is, remember, mom and dad used to go out and the kids would destroy the house. And all of a sudden they'd see the headlights coming through the commercial, and the cat in the hat, he'd come in with a broomer and a sweeper and a floor mopper and a dishwasher, and he'd rush through the house and out he'd go. And that's what we need to learn our technologies. We need to twin multiple technologies together to get the benefits from one that reduce the detriments or downsides of the other.
And I completely agree with you. It's not, I'm not an absolute, because there are absolutists. Oh, we're just going with fossil fuel. No, we're just going with renewable. And like you said, we need all of them. We need all of them. Ones that we don't even comprehend right now because they haven't been invented. We need all of them. And one of the things that I have to ask is what is some of the downsides? How do you store ammonia? Where do you get ammonia from? And does it have a smell? Is this something that's going to, turn us into Salt Lake City if we brought in ammonia to run that cargo container plant? What are some of the different aspects of that?
Okay, we'll do a quick science lesson.
Okay.
Ammonia is NH3. It's one nitrogen atom and 3 hydrogen atoms in one molecule. You can store more ammonia in one molecule and more hydrogen in one molecule of NH3 than you can a molecule of 2 hydrogens. Almost half again as much. Okay. Hydrogen has to be stored at a very, very low temperature, minus 400, I think, or a very, very, very high pressure, 5 to 10,000 pounds per square inch. Ammonia can be stored at minus 30, 32 and Celsius, or at 100 psi. So now, ammonia is produced primarily in the world today by taking natural gas, using heat to crack the hydrogen off of the ammonia, venting that into the atmosphere, crack that off the natural gas, venting that into the atmosphere, and that's where you get CO2. For every ton of ammonia you make from natural gas, you release 2 tons of CO2. If you make the ammonia from coal, it's 5 tons. Okay. The new technologies are supposedly going to allow you, or what they're thinking is to take electricity, an electrolysis unit, split water into hydrogen and oxygen, then take nitrogen from air, and using the Haber synthesis technology that was invented 100 years ago that's fed the world, you put them together. The problem is it's very, very energy intensive. The efficiency to make the hydrogen in the first place, if you're lucky, is 60%. They're claiming they can get to 80. We shall see. And then the efficiency to take that and make the hydrogen, to get the nitrogen from air and combine them again is only about 65. So you got 60 and 65. You're not doing real good in net efficiency. Now, the patent that we have is much better. It allows you to take electricity and water and steam, which means the hydrogen's already in an excited state, and air, and in a single unit, in a single process, get the hydrogen, get the nitrogen, and combine them together. We're at 80% efficiency, and we think we can get to 90. And there are other things we can do to make it even better, which is you get the steam from sunlight. You don't have to use any energy to make the steam. That's 212 degrees. That's your boiling rate. So there's a micro ammonia production technology that can be used at end use. Instead of making ammonia in a giant plant, shipping it first you have to then have giant storage, then shipping it thousands of miles, or even in pipeline. There is a pipeline in the United States from New Orleans across the American Midwest. And then taking it to a distributor who has to store it, and then getting it to the farmers for the 2 weeks a year that they need it, because most farms can't store it. So the big advantage of end-use production is you do not have this giant factory making it. You do not have this giant distribution network, and you don't have this huge storage problem. You build the storage at the other end, you produce what you need. So you can now produce hydrogen for fertilizer for now, which is the biggest market in the world, about 80%, maybe more. About 20%, a little less, is used for chemicals and medical grade ammonia and other things. So now you've got a way to produce green hydrogen and ammonia with no carbon pollution for less money than you can produce it from hydrocarbons if there was a price on that pollution. Without the price on pollution, it's dicey. But with even a $20 a ton price on pollution, which is the world price on carbon, and even better, another $20 a ton price for life cycle, it'd be cheaper. And to give you another fine example of how important level the playing field is, in Canada, we have a price on carbon, but Canada exempted all the ammonia plants. So when you produce a ton of ammonia, you pay about 10% of the carbon tax.
Jeez.
Carbon tax is $165 a ton. It should be $340 a ton carbon tax for a ton of ammonia. We produce it for $270. And again, if you look at the World Bank research, the cost to ship hydrogen overseas as liquid hydrogen is $9 a kilogram. The cost to ship hydrogen in ammonia is $3 a kilogram. We produce ammonia for $2.70 a kilogram at end use. So the short answer is the economy scales are better, the safety is better, the economics are better, and the utilization is a third of the cost of grid scale.
Okay, continue on with, are there any other downsides? Like I said, the smell, is there anything that is it, how dangerous is this stuff compared to regular hydrogen?
Okay. Well, regular hydrogen is far more dangerous.
Far more dangerous. Yes.
It explodes and you die. Ammonia is not explosive. It is classified as a caustic chemical. It is not toxic in the conventional sense. You can be exposed to it to small amounts and it won't harm you. In fact, you can be exposed to 50 parts per million all day long. Higher concentrations will cause chemical burns in the lungs. If it gets on the skin, it can kill you. But unlike virtually all other gases, ammonia has a natural occurring odor. They have to add a perfume to natural gas or propane so that you can smell it.
Right.
So there is in fact an advantage to ammonia in terms of that risk. In addition, the risk mitigation is much easier on large volumes. And let me explain it this way. If you refrigerate ammonia to minus 32, it is now a liquid. If you peel the top off that tank, it's not under pressure. It's not going to explode to 2,000 times its volume and fill up an entire ice rink in 5 seconds. Now, if you break open an ammonia line in an ice rink, it'll fill up that enclosed chamber and people will get hurt and people could die. So it's like anything. If you filled up a swimming pool full of diesel fuel with people swimming in it, they wouldn't be swimming in it very long.
Right.
So again, there's the risk reward. So ammonia is dangerous. It's caustic. It can smother you. It can burn you. It can kill you, which is again why we believe that you put it in the sectors where they've got it already first, where they know how to use it and they've handled it for 50 years or longer, 100 years. So 80% of the ammonia produced in the world today is used in agriculture. And in fact, the reason they've stopped using ammonia gas liquid and started using a granular fertilizer is because the rail companies don't want to transport the stuff. The cost of it is too expensive.
Right.
But it's a much superior fertilizer. And indeed, there's been overuse of ammonia in agriculture. And now there are technologies like TAPS, Exatrix, and other things that actually reduce the amount of fertilizer by half, add other chemicals to condition soil, and eliminate runoff, and increase crop yields another 30%. So there's even agricultural management that says we should be using ammonia and not these solid granular fertilizers. But as Al Gore said when he was asked, why do you now think ethanol subsidies were the worst policy we ever had? And he said, well, because once you start bribing people with grants and subsidies, you can't stop.
Right.
And so it's the same. It's essentially the same thing. Look, in the West Texas fire, which was granular trinitrite fertilizer, which you pour diesel on, it's a bomb, which will blow off all by itself. Thank you very much. We're not allowed to store large quantities. They had a huge fire. There were two 10,000-gallon tanks of ammonia in the middle of that fire for 3 days.
Jeez.
They vented some ammonia because of the higher temperature.
Yeah.
They did not catch fire. So in
That's
the
pretty
uses that we suggest, ocean freighter, your fuel is going to be slightly offshore. It's not going to be in the middle of of Rotterdam. It's not going to be on Manhattan Island, boys and girls. Okay, your fueling is going to be offshore. In fact, there's a project in the EU underway right now in UK, Leeds, where they are using offshore wind generators to make electricity, to make hydrogen, to make ammonia at the efficiencies I told you at like 55%.
Yeah.
To fuel ocean freighters right there. Okay, so again, this is another example. I say, if you can match production, utilization, and scale with something else, where it saves you something else, where it makes something more efficient, you can't lose. And so there are many applications, as I said, where wind and solar is horseshit. Okay, but there are many where it is. Go ahead.
They wanted to do hydrogen hubs here in one of them all over the United States. Biden wanted to do the hydrogen hubs, and one of them was here in Oregon, and they were going to use the offshore wind turbines to power the hydrogen hubs to go through the process. What do you think of that idea, the hydrogen hubs?
I hate to be I hate rainy day Mondays.
Yeah.
However, it's just another example of hopium, of unobtainium. Okay, in the first place, there may have been a specific application, and there may be specific applications where offshore production of hydrogen, where it's going to be utilized immediately, where it doesn't have to be stored for an hour or a minute. Okay, if you're going to use that to decarbonize the blast furnace for industrial use in an iron plant. But what happens if why make electricity to make hydrogen to reduce the carbon in a blast furnace? Why don't just run the blast furnace as an electric arc on the electricity in the first place? And so again, and the other question is, what are the benefits of making hydrogen via electrolysis or by a MAPS tech where you get all this free oxygen? What's the value of that free oxygen in that factory? And is there an application where the oxygen is a benefit? Well, hell yeah, in steel making, right? So now you can burn hydrogen in pure oxygen, you have no emissions, and you've got clean high-grade steel. Oh, well, wait a minute. Now, how close is the nearest steel factory to where that wind farm is going to be? So,
it's 13,000 feet in out in the water.
Well, no, but you know what I mean. So,
right.
So you gotta answer these questions. Do I believe that large-scale production of hydrogen via electrolysis is viable? No way. Can't be. Yeah. The math is a killer. $9 a kilo to ship it. I make it at end use for $2.70 with electricity at 6-8 cents. Like I can get electricity at 6-8 cents 24 hours a day in a lot of places. Maybe not all over America, but all over the world, I can get electricity at 2 cents.
Right.
So, but even there, Even though I can make the stuff at a quarter what we can make it here for, I can't afford to make it and ship it here. So end use, technology replacing, infrastructure replacing, huge capital cost investment replacing technologies have to work. And really what it is, it's the flip of the economic philosophy that building large scale, large capacity is better. It's not better when it comes to liquid fuels. It's not better when it comes to gases. And it's certainly not better, I believe, when it comes to electricity, because when you got to transport electricity 500 miles, you got grid losses, and you got infrastructure losses, and then you got the environmental consequences. So again, I say full cycle, eyes open, tell me what it'll really cost, and then let me take the risk.
See, and it's right on source. It's right there happening. No storage. No,
And the other thing that's very important to tell your viewers and to realize is hydrofuel is not just in the micro ammonia production business. Okay, we have technologies to convert trucks. We're not going to market them. We put it on a diesel truck for a science project. Okay, a dog and pony show. See, we can do that. The media will cover it if you put it in a car, put it in a truck. Put it in a factory and cut their pollution by 99%. Nobody shows up. So the other technology and the other thing that people are failing to realize is this. There's two sides of this. First, there's other ways to get hydrogen other than splitting water via electrolysis and then using Haber to synthesize it, like our MAPS unit that does it all at once. But we have a version of the MAPS unit that takes hydrogen and adds air and makes ammonia at 90% efficiency.
Oh, wow.
Well, where's the hydrogen come from? So it just happens to turn out in the last couple of years, all over the world, we found something called white hydrogen. Oh, what is white hydrogen? It's basically very, very low carbon natural gas that's 40 or 50,000 feet underground. Now, they think that we have thousands of years of supply of this stuff.
Oh, wow.
Now, here's the problem. What do you do with it?
Yeah.
When you get it out of the well.
Right.
What do you do with it? If you don't turn it, if you don't turn it into ammonia to store it, you're dead. If you turn it into ammonia, you can't be shipping it 1,000 miles.
Right.
Because there'll be someone closer. You're dead. So again, the drilling of these projects, again, these aren't going to happen overnight. There'll be a few science projects and test wells and blah, blah, blah. And maybe in 10 years, using a combination of the technology from fractional drilling and blah, 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 and everything we learned in the oil and gas business, we'll use that to get that hydrogen. The idea that we're going to take carbon from, so that's the one. So the one thing is, keep in mind, there'll be other ways to get cheap hydrogen, and being able to store and transport ammonia is the answer. But on the other side of the coin, 90% of the world's energy is from hydrocarbons. That's the way it is. And we're not replacing those. What we're going to do is figure out how to use them with less pollution than renewables. And here's how that works. 90% of all chemistry today, refining, manufacturing, everything we do, uses thermal energy, heat, 80% of which comes from burning hydrocarbons. Okay? The other 10% or 9% of what we produce in chemistry, manufacturing, comes from electricity, 80% of which comes from hydrocarbons. The other 1% is renewables, wind, solar, whatever. They don't have that. Okay. So if we could find a way to replace heat from hydrocarbons and heat from electricity, carbon from the heat for hydrocarbons and carbon from the electricity for electricity with light, we can decarbonize the entire upstream and downstream fossil and hydrocarbon energy sector. Now that becomes very interesting,
Right.
And of course, we filed 13 patents at the University of Toronto on the photochemistry. There's other companies in the world that are using it to crack ammonia. There's companies that are using photochemistry light to clean water. This has become a mature technology. So what we now have the ability to do is take that oil from the well, take it to the refinery, strip off all of the heat-based carbon separation, use light, LEDs, which can let us control the spectrum and power and frequency of light better than we can direct sunlight. Use light to split that into hydrogen and carbon. We're not venting the carbon, we're making a carbon product. Now we got the hydrogen and we didn't emit the carbon. Or, even better, we just refine the hydrocarbon. We don't make pure hydrogen. We refine it to gasoline and diesel, but we don't vent. We don't emit any carbon. Any free carbon that we have that is produced, there really wouldn't be because we're not using it as a feedstock, but the feedstock for the process. But any carbon that's extra is carbon fiber, is carbon nano, is carbon black. It's a chemical. It's worth money. It's not a pollutant. So now we use the existing, you remember that infrastructure we said that costs $500 trillion?
Right.
So now we don't replace that, we use that. And you still go to the gas station with your truck, your diesel truck, and you still fill it up with diesel. Except your diesel truck engine's been converted to run on hydrogen and, believe it or not, water. A little bit of water in there, which allows you to control the hydrogen. You don't have to change the entire engine. But wait, you got diesel in that truck. That's right. And you have a small photoreactor that runs off your DC battery, and it turns that diesel into carbon powder, which is caught in a bucket. You blow your engine, a container, and pure hydrogen. And your diesel truck is running on pure hydrogen. And when you go fill up that diesel truck, instead of having to buy DEF Blue to take the carbon out of your exhaust, they'll pay you for the carbon that you made for them to sell to a factory within 5 or 10 miles instead of being made 10,000 miles away.
Oh, wow.
And so we can actually decarbonize and depollution, de-emissionize upstream and downstream of our entire energy infrastructure. So now what are we left with? Well, industry says the fugitive emissions midstream are 3%. The Greens say it's 7%. Even it's 5%. Do you know what the pollution level of reducing our hydrocarbon infrastructure by 90%, 95% compares to the life cycle pollution of a battery, of a wind generator, of a solar cell?
Right.
We wouldn't do those other things. The only place we do those is where you have all across Sahara Africa, where you
Right.
could use light, sunlight, to make electricity, to make fuel, to produce water, to turn it all green, or someplace where you've got wind, sustained wind capacity that they'll run at least 50%. So in places where you have huge resources, you use the resources to twin them with what you have. But we got 1,000 years worth of hydrocarbons, boys and girls. And within 50 years, we will, in every application on Earth, we will use those hydrocarbons and we will not emit. And remember, if my technology was commercial tomorrow, and its first demonstration is about 2 years, it'll take 50 years to get market share. Industry won't strip $1.5 billion worth of hardware off a refinery until they've seen one running for 10 years, right?
You're damn right. Right.
And this is the thing that, some environmentalists and a lot of politicians ignore. And that is the implementation strategy, okay? It still takes a decade to go from a lab to market. And it takes another decade to go from introducing to the market to get market share. And sometimes it takes half a century to get to market dominance. So, but the good news is we have the technology to store and transport hydrogen in ammonia and to make ammonia or hydrogen at end use from multiple sources so that we can start this, we can get this going. it will also mean that the idea of giant hydrogen hubs shipping hydrogen hundreds of miles, or hydrogen locomotives, or look, every hydrogen locomotive that's ever been built ran for 1,000 kilometers, set a record, and they shut it down the next day.
And it just sounds as dangerous as all hell. I don't know.
Well, it's actually not, but there are issues. The issues with hydrogen buses they're finding out is it's not the hydrogen tanks that leak. It's all the pipes. It's all the hardware.
Yeah.
And they've had them blow up. Toyota and all the hydrogen companies tell you cannot park a hydrogen vehicle underground. It's going to be the same thing for batteries. So again, it's the risk reward. Remember, do you know who makes the final decision in all these technologies? The insurance companies.
Oh yeah, totally,
It costs twice as much to insure a battery vehicle than it does the same thing as a hybrid.
Right.
And about almost 3 times as much for a low emission gasoline vehicle. So again, and people forget about that.
Right.
Okay. So and especially industry, when you're making investments in plants and equipments and vehicles, etc., you better be looking at everything. You can't just follow the leader, because if you follow the leader, you get to the slaughterhouse.
Exactly. Very true. Very true. You make the great argument that this would reduce carbon. Say you don't. Say you're one of the many people out here who just don't give a damn about carbon. I want cheaper prices.
You got to come to me, because my price is going to be 1/10 of everybody else's. My price for clean diesel will be a fraction of everybody else's, because just because the United States has decided that you can sell plutonium in cornflakes to children and they have no right to stop you except sue you if they're rich, okay? The rest of the world does not think that way. There will be a global price. There is a global price on carbon, and there will be a global price on pollution. We will get a level playing field. So it doesn't matter what the U.S. does, and Trump's only going to be there for 4 years. And to be honest, I don't think the Republicans will have control of the House and Senate 2 years from now. In fact, I think it's going to happen in the 1920s and 30s, and they're going to wake up with 2/3 of the House, or 3/4, as happened in the past, controlled by the opposing side, and the president won't be able to order any toilet paper for his golden toilets without a congressional approval. So,
well, that has been historically the what usually happens is that whatever president takes over, his party loses during this midterm elections.
Yeah, but I'm talking about when Hoover became president and basically started deporting 1 million people and put the United States into the greatest recession in history in 1929, and then the Dust Bowl came. And Trump is going there. And maybe worse.
And that's what there are many economists who are saying, is that we're leading for the next depression. And I don't blame Trump. I blame all of the last administrations, including partly of what Trump did in his first administration. They just love to spend money, man. They love to spend money. And like you said, they're betting on some of the wrong players and doing a lot of the wrong things.
95% of government revenue in the last 100 years has been tax cuts for the wealthy. I don't think there's anybody to blame except, is greed. There's no other blame required. Okay. It's greedy, evil people. And I believe in God, and I believe in science. And I hope they're going to enjoy the 100 billion lives they get to live as a single-celled amoeba before they graduate again to a toad. Okay?
So you believe in reincarnation too, right?
Yeah, I believe that God gets even for everybody. So
and he might. That might be very well true.
Well, let's go down that rabbit hole for 1 sec. Let's just go.
Go for it. I mean,
I'm crazy. Let's go. I'm a science guy. The mind is capable of 12 dimensions. We are got 4. Okay. let's say one of those dimensions is time. That means we have enough time in our lifetime, since it's infinite, to live every life of every living thing that's ever lived 100 billion times. I don't want to come back 100 billion times as one of those Somalis in a boat trying to attack an American gunship, getting hit by a 50 caliber cannon. Okay? I just, if there's a heaven and we go float in the clouds, these people ain't coming. If there's more than that, then I think energy is not created or destroys, it changes phase.
Right.
And I think the energy that you use and the energy that you emit and produce matters. If you are a negative entity, I do not think you will evolve into a positive environment. If you're a negative entity, I think you get what you deserve. And what scares me or surprises me is that none of these Republican fanatics understand the God they supposedly believe in. And let's be truthful. I remember when Republicans felt we needed a negative income tax. Milton Friedman.
Right.
Why? For the same reason that Henry Ford doubled the wages of his employees. Because if they can't afford to buy the cars they're building, will be bankrupt. But what do today's Republicans believe? They believe that God sent me here to punish you so you will be worthy to enter the kingdom of heaven.
Do you really believe
What did they
that?
believe 50 years ago? If it cost me more money to feed, clothes, house, educate you, and it cost me to throw you out the fucking street, pardon my language, then I will feed, clothes, and house you. What do these guys think today? God won't allow me to feed and clothe and house you. I need a tax cut for myself. If you become one of us, you'll be able to feed, clothe, and house yourself. Look, let them eat cake always ends the same way. No civilization in the history of man has survived its excesses.
I myself, though, I've been a libertarian most of my life. I'm now a registered Republican because I got canceled by a Republican. And the best way to get close to them is to join their party.
Right.
But I myself, I've also seen the what I call compassion overload, where we've got people who are wandering the streets on drugs, and we want to give them more food, more money, more water, and literally give them drugs. And it's like, I'm sorry, I can't go that route either. I mean, it's like no heart, no brains, no heart. I've got one or the other. You know what I mean?
We don't have an hour to do that. But let me give you my opposing view to that.
Okay.
Many of these people are in that situation through no fault of their own. And regardless of the fault, we have a responsibility to help our fellow human beings that are in trouble.
Where do you think?
Every homeless drug addict that we help
I don't get that.
is someone that doesn't cost us twice as much later in healthcare, police, jail, crime, etc. costs. So with all due respect, we've got to look at the humanity of stuff. It's not just the numbers, but it just so happens to turn out that the numbers are not what the right wing tell you. In fact, in about 99% of the cases, what the right wing is telling you is the opposite of the truth. The only time they tell you the truth is when it's the best interest. Let me give you a great example. How many Republicans wanted life sentences for smoking one joint? What were the first 12 states?
As a pot smoker, I've fought against that as myself. Okay. Yeah.
What was the first 12 states in the United States to legalize marijuana or decriminalize it? Republicans. Republicans. Why? Follow the money. Okay? So when they actually follow the money, they eventually do the right thing. And the reason is not because they're smarter than anybody, but because money has no morals. Money will flow to whoever will treat it best. So if you can make more money being a decent human being than you can being an asshole, eventually more people would be decent human beings. And that's the problem with capitalism. Capitalism believes that one person should own it all and we should all be serfs. I can tell you that long before one person owns it all, their head will be on a pole in front of their mansion and they'll have cakes around them, reminding them of what happened in France. So you cannot leave people nothing left to lose. If you leave them nothing left to lose, they become desperate. And I am a Peter Pocklington conservative. I believe the only thing you deserve from government is a little Christmas card with a plastic mirror that says, get a job or fucking starve. Pardon my language again. But no boat shall sink. We must find a way to allow the human beings in our society to grow instead of to fall. And there's many, many, many examples of workfare programs and guaranteed annual income programs around the world that have shown, instead of taking away someone's social assistance because they worked a part-time job, you let them make as much as they're making on assistance part-time. And what happens? 90% of them over time make more money and get off social assistance. Instead of saying, if you go and get a job and better yourself for a little wages, you're now homeless and you lose your benefits. Okay. So I told you this is a short conversation and we can have it for an hour. But all policies, in my opinion, go back to the basics. What are the economics of this? What is the real cost of this? And what is the risk? What is the long-term risk associated with our decisions?
Right.
That's my 2 cents on that.
Well, I love to give people, and I don't agree with you on a lot of the things you said. But like you said, I love to hear it because, if we didn't listen to each other, then we would never know how to grow, because there are surely some things that you could teach me and I can teach you. And those are beautiful things. And like you said, like I said, I don't always agree with the Republicans, and I certainly don't always agree with the Democrats. But then again, I see all politicians as leeches.
Well, see, I don't quite feel that way, and because I wrote a book on democracy, and I have some experience on helping people become premiers and prime ministers and having them lie to my face. I don't think all politicians are crooked. I don't think they're crooked until after they get elected.
Some yes, some no. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, the process here in Canada, we're not like the US. We don't have a House and a Senate and a separate executive branch. Right. We got a prime minister with a majority, and you can get 30% of the votes and get 60% of the seats. Right. And so when you're a prime minister in Canada, you have more power than Putin does, more power than Z does. You can basically pass almost any law you want, except one that takes away the right to vote. But any other law, we have a notwithstanding clause that says, yes, this is unconstitutional. Yes, this violates our United Nations Accords. Yes, this is the most abhorrent thing you can do. And I have doing it now for the next 5 years. And every 5 years you say, yes, I'm an asshole. I'm doing it again. So, but the reality is that from outside power and inside power, it's two different worlds. I tell you, I've been at meetings with the whip with new members that just got elected. And I'm sorry, but here's how the meeting goes. Congratulate candidate X. In the next 3 years, 4 years before the next election, you're going to raise $500,000 for the next campaign between yourself and the party. And if we see one media report, one YouTube video, one Facebook post that you've knocked this party, you won't be the candidate. Right. Now, get the F out of my office and we'll see if you're here in 4 years. And that's the first day. Okay?
Right.
So in politics, you used to go to office. Mr. Smith goes to Washington. You used to go to represent your constituents. Now, the whip and the leader You can have everyone in the Senate and House wanting a bill to be introduced except one person, the Speaker.
Right.
You don't see the bill.
Yep.
Okay. So I don't hate all politicians. I don't hate anybody. I'm disappointed with elected politicians about 3 weeks after they get elected.
Yeah.
But again, America has a big advantage over Canada, and that is in over half the states in the United States, you have plebiscites, you have referendums. People can force a vote on a subject. And a great example, I wrote the book Democracy A, which is available on the website nota.ca, none of the above.ca. And I wrote this book 33 years ago. And we looked at referendums.
Yeah.
And 75% of plebiscites or referendums in the United States that are introduced by people, not by special interests, pass. Only 25% of the special interest ones do. And a great example was Proposition 13. You couldn't raise taxes. The schools were sold. The libraries were bought by Russia. All the apartment buildings. I mean, it was ridiculous. But of those 25%, half of them are overturned within a decade. So over a 10-year period, the public will get it right 87.5% of the time. There has never been a politician that has ever existed that could ever get that right. Because the day they get to office, they have to pay off all the favors to the unions or the Democrats that elect them, or the businesses, the corporations, the Republicans that elected them. So I am a big, big believer in direct democracy. And if you'd like a country, if your listeners would like to know a country in the world where this works beautifully, go look at Switzerland. You get the booklet, and it is every bill that your government has passed, and you ratify it. You go yes or no. And if it ain't ratified by the public, it ain't the law. And then when the politicians circle the wagons and say, we won't have a vote on this, we won't have a vote on this, because we don't want to take a stand, we don't want to get in trouble. And a classic example was guaranteed annual income. And the public in Switzerland wanted a vote on it. And the politicians wouldn't give it to them. Well, at the back of the booklet comes 10 pages, and there are 10 slots. Give us the issue you'd like to vote on. And the next booklet you get is the top 10 things that the public wants to vote on. Last year, what made it to the list? Guaranteed annual income. And they had the vote. And it lost. But the point is they had the vote.
Right.
So I believe in referenda, and I believe in recall, and I also believe in proportional representation, which it would take a constitutional amendment for the Americans to figure out. But if you don't get 50% of the vote, you don't get 50% of the seats. Okay? Trump would have to face the Democrats and the Greens versus Trump and the Libertarians to form a government if you had pure proportional representation. You also wouldn't have a presidential debate and all of the primaries with just the two parties. The public airwaves owned by the American people would cover the Greens and the Libertarians and
And
whoever else.
that is frustrating. I wish they would do that more often.
Well, they won't, because
They won't.
again, it's
Right.
you know, who appoints the judges that do not decide the court cases about what politicians get on TV? The fucking Greek part of language. The Greens don't, right? So you know, you got to dance for the ones what brung you. So then you go inside the political parties, like I have my whole life. You get a guy to run specifically on a promise to keep his promises and to pass a citizen referenda law. He gets a huge majority. You go to committee, you draft a bill for a provincial and federal law. It's got unanimous consent. You hand it to the leader and say, will you give it to the House leader to introduce? There's 103 members of the legislature. You've got 100 of them in favor. And the three leaders get together and say, House leader, don't introduce the bill.
Right.
Why? You know, same thing as happens in the United States. What did McConnell have? 375 pieces of legislation he wouldn't introduce with consensus, bipartisan. So we have the same bullshit here. Only the difference here is you can't stop a majority government for 4 years. We don't get an off-year election. And we don't have courts in this country with guts enough to tell our politicians no. So
interesting. That was very interesting. That was a very good civics lesson, because a lot of us here in the States, we often wonder what are you Canucks doing up there, damn it.
we elect our dictator every 4 years.
Yeah, that's
You guys are starting to learn. You're learning about that now.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm happy with a lot of the things he's doing, but it's, I'm never happy with all of them. Anything all of them do, you know what I mean? They all got their problems.
Let's not go there.
As a libertarian, I lose every time, guy. I mean,
and things is, just because you're a libertarian doesn't have to mean that you're crazy.
Right.
So there's a difference between individual freedoms and my individual freedoms taking away everybody else's.
Right.
And that's where Trump is. So I don't support anything this guy does, because I'm honest with myself. I hate liberals. Liberals twist in the wind like a weather vane. What do I do today? What do I do tomorrow? They don't have a principle in their lives. The only thing they care about is getting elected. Well, what do the great famous conservatives say when they're asked after 2 terms? Prime Minister Mulroney, what was the greatest headline you ever liked? Oh, I like 2 headlines. First headline said Brian Mulroney wins a big majority. Second headline says Brian wins a big majority. You know why? Because nothing else matters.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
What Trump has done is not that. Trump has run on one thing. He's doing something else. He promised to lower. Wait. Let me finish. He promised to lower prices. We'll see. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let's just give Canada about 30 more days to teach you some lessons, and then we'll see how much you like Trump.
I may call you back up to
You
see.
can call me back.
You got it. You got a deal. I'd love
Yeah.
to see this, because
Let's do a show just on politics, so I don't have to destroy my company's reputation.
Tell me about it. I know. I at the end of this, I have to go to my sponsors, and I can see that right now they're all cringing. Oh my God, he was.
Who is this guy?
Who is this guy?
But I'm a conservative, but there's no real conservatives anymore. Okay, I wish we had Milton Friedman.
Yeah, I'm a big Milton Friedman fan. Yeah.
I wish we had William F. Buckley. Here's the guy that said, I'd rather be governed by the first 2,000 numbers and phone numbers in the white pages than the entire faculty of Harvard. I agree with that. I'm more libertarian than you are. I'm not an ass kisser, and I'm not follow the leader, and I'm not fundamentally cruel. And I believe that's what Republicans are. They're fundamentally cruel. They should be ashamed of themselves.
I believe it's interesting. We'll have to talk more about this, but I enjoyed talking about this. I love the hydrofuel thing. Before I get out of here, well, I do want you to anything you want to tell us before you get out of here. How can people find out more about this? How can they find out more about getting involved with this if they want to, and promote this idea?
Well, again, thank you for inviting me to your show. Our website is nh3fuel.com on the bottom, or it's hydrofuel.com. We'll get you there. We're a year away from a commercial demonstration of our micro-ammonia technology. The exact location, we're not sure, whether it's going to be on a farm or whether it's going to be providing electricity for an emergency situation, or however we're going to do it. But we're going to produce ammonia, and we're going to use it. And that's going to start within a year, and we'll start selling these things, producing and selling them in big numbers within 2 years. There's no question. The work at the University of Toronto is going to go on. I've been there 2 years. I spent $1.5 million or more. We're going to spend another couple of $1 million at University of Toronto over the next couple of years. I would say to your viewers, any of them who are business people, you gotta start investing in basic science. Basic science is where all the big breakthroughs happen. It doesn't happen when someone comes to you with something that's technology readiness level 7, 8. It happens when you got technology readiness level 1 and 2, and you bring it up. There's going to be less and less and less public funding for universities. The funding for universities is going to be tied to hyper-partisan policies. Science doesn't give a shit whether you're gay or straight or white or black or green or blue, Republican or Democrat. Science cares about what is China, Russia, Taiwan, Korea, Iran, Israel, what are they doing? That's what science cares about. And a major breakthrough in science and biology can be $1 trillion business. So if I'm a business person, you get tax credits for university research. Go do some research. Go fund your fellow countrymen to invent the technologies that your country is going to need to survive in the new world, regardless of who's president. That's the first thing I say. Second thing I would say is business has got to be less risk averse. You've got to take a few more chances with your profits. You've got to be willing to adopt some of these technologies, even though it will cost you a little more. But I don't want you to do it because someone claims it's greener or cleaner. Adopt technologies that in their own rights make a fundamental improvement in your business. And understand that short-term economics change. So if you can adopt a technology 5 years sooner than a competitor, even though it costs you a little more, when they start scrambling to adopt the technology, you're in the marketplace. So develop winners and then pick winners. And that's really the two most important things. All the rest of it is politics. If you go after big things, you can make a big difference. Dead salmon float downstream. Okay? Go upstream. If you follow the herd ends up at the slaughterhouse. Don't be the person halfway in the line. Okay? So that's all I got to say. I've spent my life, I'm 68 years old. I've been fortunate. I spent my lifetime basically doing what I want to do. I haven't lived in America long enough that I ran into someone with a carry license. So we don't have guns here. So far I've been good. I don't get arrested and shot here for having a political opinion that's different. And you don't generally in the United States either. So I've swum upstream in business and I've swum upstream in politics and in my personal life. I've had a great time and I'm looking forward to the just rewards for the last 50 years of work because it looks like it's coming.
Yeah, good. This is great. 45 years? Damn, it's time to get that reward. And it feels so good.
Yeah, 45 years in ammonia and 50 years in politics.
And you really got one more year, and that's the big one that's going to be, you're going to be able to demo, right?
Well, the next year, I mean, I don't want to say, but we're in some pretty big negotiations. I mean, if what we have is true just on micro ammonia, it's $1 trillion market just for the annual fertilizer. That's before we store a gram of hydrogen. Okay. I mean, that's a monster.
That's huge.
Allowing us to use every drop of coal and gas and oil. And the other thing, remember about photochemistry is it can convert any hydrocarbon. It doesn't have to be a fossil. I can take human waste, animal waste, construction waste. Right. I can go into Gaza and take the hydrogen out of that concrete because everything is a hydrocarbon. So the beauty of photochemistry is it allows us to take everything and knock it back to its original chemicals. Now we've got original chemistry for free. Right. All we've got to do is turn it into what we wanted in the first place. So it's the ability to recycle plastics. It's the ability to clean everything we do. There's exciting times coming, folks. There's some scary stuff we got to go through to get there. And then eventually we'll learn, and we all got to put our row in the water, kind of row together a little bit. And then as soon as we start rowing together, it'll be fine.
I agree. I totally agree with you, man.
And thanks for inviting me. Again, my condolences for having to join the Republican Party.
That's okay. It's okay.
I joined the Liberal Party federally. Oh, it was hard.
You kind of hold
and I ran candidates for the None of the Above Party in the last election, and I put out a press release in ridings where it's close between the conservative and anybody else,
Yeah.
vote for none of the above. No conservative. Don't vote for us. So, I got my 1% of the vote. Yay. And I didn't get arrested this year at the school asking to speak at the all candidates debate
Well, that's
because
good.
they didn't have any.
Geez. I love that. I love
And
that.
it is a wonderful democracy. You go to the school down the street where my kids went to school, where I've lived for 30 years, and I'm the candidate in my riding and the leader of the party that's running in that election, 42 candidates. And I asked to speak, and they phoned the police. And the police said, if you don't leave, you'll be under arrest for trespassing.
Jeez, man.
And that's on public property. In the United States, it is illegal to use public property for partisan purposes in any way during or in between elections unless all candidates get equal time. But Canada's a democracy, eh? Sure. That's the name of my book, Democracy A, nota.ca.
When I redo the recording, I'm going to throw that up at the end for you, man.
Do it.
You got it.
You can get a cover of the book on that webpage. You can flash the cover of the book there.
That's what
and
I'll
for
do.
anybody that knows, the book is endorsed by a guy named Mike Harris, who after the book came out became the Premier of Ontario and wouldn't pass the bill he promised to pass. But before he got elected, he said our book was essential reading for those who believe that those they elect no longer represent them. But that's because he wanted to be one of those that we elect that no longer represent them. But he didn't say that part.
Right, no. But he got the first part in.
They cut that out of the press release they sent me, right.
Yeah. Well, man, it was good talking to you. I did enjoy this, and I learned quite a bit. I've learned more than I ever thought I would on this. This is all new to me, and I'll find out more, and I'll get back to you because I want to find out how this goes. Okay.
Well, honest to God, thank you for having me. I learned something too, and this is the longest conversation I've had with a Trump supporter since 2016. So
there you go. Then we both are having a good day.
That was just because it was election night, and I won $19,000 betting 2-1 that the day Trump won the Republican nomination. I bet $8,500 2-1 that Trump would be president.
Oh wow!
And I was with my buddy when the results started coming in, and he was laughing at me. Hillary's going to win. Hillary's going to win. And I said, just wait.
See, that's you have hope there. You were willing to bet on a guy you didn't like just because you were.
No, I didn't. I didn't like him back then. I didn't know him yet.
Oh, okay. I thought you were betting on the guy you didn't like. I was thinking,
no, I was betting on what I thought was a sure thing.
Right. Well, I would have too. Right. I did too. I didn't vote for him in 2016 because I thought he was such a corporatist.
Well, he was. But can you compare him to Hillary?
I
mean,
Hillary, come on.
You don't have to besmirch. You don't have to insult them. Her track record, all the people that have committed suicide around her are enough.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, right. So,
yeah, I get it, man. I get it. All right, I'll be in touch, Greg. Okay.
All right, brother. Thank you.
You take care, man.
All right.
Bye-bye. All right, that was Greg Vezina, and boy, it's what a great conversation that was. We will have this replayed for Monday. It's Saturday right now, and it's a beautiful day out there. Damn beautiful day. So we will. I'm going to go out and have a great day, and at the end of this, I'll have a little bit of different places where you can go and find out more about Hydrofuel. Thank you and take care. All right, and that was my interview from Saturday. What an interesting guy. I don't understand who's someone who calls himself a conservative, but he's not a Trump supporter. Those Canadians, those Canadians, they have interesting points of view. And I'm going to definitely get this guy back on the show. His name, Greg Vezina. He's invented this machine that will help create ammonia to create energy, and it's um, it's some interesting stuff. If he can actually pull this off, I hope he can. It seems like he knows what he's talking about, and we're going to go back to him and find out how well he does, because he's got the patents for this process. And like I said, you know, I would be happy if remember Lost in Space when Will Robinson they would land the spaceship, and Will Robinson and Dr. Smith, the pain. Dr. Smith would come out, and they would all hook up this little machine that had this little whirly gig on the top, and that provided enough energy to light up the ship and put up an energy shield force to protect them from any aliens. I mean, I'm waiting for that Lost in Space whirly gig. That's what I'm waiting for. And if we can find someone to produce that will create this whirly gig that will create free energy, I'm going to put him on the show as well. I want to hear about this stuff. And I think there are things that are coming along in the next decade or so that we are going to eventually get free energy. We're going to see things that happen in this world that are just going to be unbelievable. And that's because technology, it increases, and the amount that it increases as well. And so we're really barreling down the hill of new technologies. It's a huge speed. I'm hoping to get Chris Castleman on here. I asked him on here. There was a subject I wanted to talk to him about, but before we get to that, I do wanted to quickly let me share this screen right here of Greg's page. Let me share this real quick. And right there, if you can see that, that's Greg's web page right there. And he wrote the book Democracy, eh? Hey, Democracy, eh? And he claims to be a conservative. He was quoting Milton Friedman, but I don't know. He seems to be not a big Trump fan, But I do have Chris Castleman joining me right now. And there he is. Hey, Chris, how you doing, man?
Hey, how's it going? Pretty good.
Pretty damn
Been
good.
some nice weather out here in Oregon. Some sun.
It has been some incredible weather, yeah, but we were due. It seems like it was nonstop raining there for a while. I was getting a little sick of that shit.
And now that we mentioned it, it's probably going to rain for the next 3 weeks.
And now that we mentioned it, it'll probably rain for the next 3 weeks. Yeah. Yeah. I don't even start looking at planting until May. That's how far off I am. I try to do the short bloom season because it's just, you can't grow anything out here on the coast. It's really hard. I don't know how you do it.
It's supposed to be April showers bring May flowers, but out here in Oregon, it's April showers bring May showers.
Right. Yeah, totally.
And
totally.
June showers. And sometimes July.
Half of June and part of July. Right. Yeah. There have been times when July has been colder and wetter than January sometimes here. I've been out on the beach just freezing my ass off in the middle of July. In fact, when I first moved here, they go, on the 4th of July, they're all, let's go to the beach. Everyone bundle up. And I'm all, bundle up. And I'm thinking, I'm from the Southwest, I'm thinking shorts and t-shirts and stuff. And no, we're out there in blankets and parkas and freezing our ass off on the 4th of July.
You get the fog down there in Bandon.
Always.
I'm a little more protected.
I think it's because of that Indian tribe our people wiped out years ago. I think that Bandon did a bad thing years ago, and we're now cursed.
And then the Indian tribe wiped out.
Yes.
People forget that. They wiped each other out, right? Like we weren't the first of the genocidal population.
There's a book, I forget, the War Before Civilization. It talks about the wars and civilization, or the societies that were here before we came here and supposedly civilized it. And there were tribes wiping out and committing genocide against each other. The Lakota tribe stole the Dakota Hills from two other tribes. They nearly committed genocide against another tribe. I know the Navajo and the other Indian tribes committed all kinds of horrible uh, man against humanity, inhumanity against man kind of things.
All over the world, not even just here. It's been going on since pretty much all of humanity, since we were cavemen, if you
Uh,
believe in evolution.
if you believe in evolution, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm waiting. I'm hoping at the end of all of this, someone will, you die and you at least get the life's explanation, and it's not just 42, it's more than that. It's just, they answer all those important questions that you always had, like who
They
really
give you
shot
the
the Kennedys?
right. They give you the courtesy of explaining what the fuck just happened to you.
Yeah, what the hell just happened? That would
You
be.
experienced 80 years on that weird planet.
Yep. Yep. They go,
Sorry about that.
you were on an acid trip, and that was what happened during your acid trip. And oh, okay, thanks. It explains a lot.
That's funny.
So a couple of years ago, we were doing that COVID thing. And I don't know if you remember this part, but Waterfall Clinic was one of the clinics that we were battling against because they were trying to bribe children to take the COVID shot. They were
I remember
offering,
that very much. It was when I first moved here.
yeah, and so
They
we
were
were,
driving a big purple bus around
yep,
to schools, and they disguised it as a flu clinic. They called it a flu clinic, and
yep.
I went there with some people. Scott Brewster was one of them. Some people from Citizens Restoring Liberty, and yeah, I don't mean to cut you off, but I
No,
absolutely.
that was what I wanted. You had a little bit of a history that I wanted to share with everyone. Why there was a battle with some of these clinics out here was because they were promoting the vaccine, and it was worse than promotion. It was downright bribery. They offered the kids, like I said, free tickets to the fair. They had offered them. There were other things that they could get if they got this shot, and you
Very
didn't.
dishonest.
Very dishonest, and you didn't have to tell their parents. That was the other thing. They
Yep.
were not telling parents and offering.
15 was the age of consent,
Yep.
I think, but I think they were even working around that as well. They were parking it outside the Marshfield Junior High School,
Yep.
and other schools.
And then simultaneously, while this was going on, we were doing that Black Lives Matter thing across the country. It was 2020. They were doing the George Floyd protest and all that stuff. And they were pushing, that's when the trans agenda, the gay agenda came out, and they were really pushing it on us. And we were fighting it back on the radio. We were pushing back against it. And one of the people who came out against me was this gentleman by the name of Lance Nelson. And I'm going to add this to the stage. Oops. Let's try that. Lance Nelson, he is the chief executive officer over at Waterfall Community Health Center. And he specifically targeted me and wrote a nasty letter about me to the radio station and pulled $1,300 a month in Waterfall advertising unless they canceled my show, canceled my contract. And that was back in 2020. And we've since found out some interesting things about this guy, Lance Nelson. Maybe you can tell us some of the things you found out.
First, I'd just like to say that if you're a community organization that promotes that you're just like wholesome and you're doing good things in the community, and you're advertising on the radio, presumably to spread your mission, to succeed in doing good things for the community, keep it healthy, that not just like physical health, but mental health, behavioral health. And you're using that advertising to reach more people and do more good in the community, then it doesn't make sense to discontinue that advertising, regardless of your opinion of some radio show host or whatever. I mean, it's irrelevant. You're supposed to be, I would imagine, in that position, you would be unbiased. You're trying to reach people and help people, and just because some radio show says some things you don't like, that's crap. If you're Far's Hardware and you're trying to sell products, maybe you can make that
Right.
call. You're some regular organization, but this guy, the shit I found on him last night, whew, I mean, I don't even know how to. I don't. How many F words can I say? This
Well,
guy is
for today's
disgusting.
show, yes, today's show, please let the F bombs fly. I know that I promise most people that we try not to do that on Mondays, but for this
I'll
occasion, yeah.
It's just so if people are not in the know, last night somebody Perry Holman had sent me a text with an article written a couple days ago on this guy that he's facing a lawsuit in Multnomah County, I believe, uh, for a civil lawsuit over incidences that happened back in the late 90s, so 1998 to 2001, and then some more from 2003 to 2006. He was a youth pastor and he was molesting boys. So allegedly, I mean,
Allegedly, we
I
have to use
I
the word
say
allegedly.
allegedly even very softly because I looked up the article referenced that he holds a license for to be a counselor in Oregon, and the article I read, this one right here on Oregon Live, said that it mentioned that they were going to potentially revoke the license. And I was like, hey, that information is usually publicly available. So I go and I look it up, and there's a 4-page document that explains that they did a 2-year investigation. So they've known about this since 2023. They did a 2-year investigation and they concluded factually, not allegedly, factually, that he did molest these boys in 1999 to 2001, I believe were the years. And then that was as a youth pastor. Then he moved and became a counselor. And you'll have to read into it. It gets a little weird, but it's like essentially he was, my understanding of it is that he was manipulating, that he was forming sexual relationships with minors and then manipulating them to become his patient. So then he would counsel them and have even greater access to them. And so he was beyond abusing his position of power. He did it as a youth pastor, then continued it as a counselor, a licensed counselor. And man, that's disgusting. The guy's married and has kids
Oh,
here
it's
in
worse than
Marshfield.
that. You're going to love this. One of the reasons
Oh
that he
no.
went after me was number one, he thought I was putting out conspiracy theories as far as the vaccine is gone, which now we have seen that those conspiracy theories were proven true, what we were saying about the vaccine then. And two, he was going after me for making derogatory remarks towards transgender people because he counsels a lot of transgender people. And in fact, his daughter happens to be transgender. She was pregnant at the time, and she used to get very upset when people would refer to her as a woman when she identified as a man, but yet she was like 8 months pregnant when I saw her. And it was like, yeah, I've never seen a man 8 months pregnant, but whatever.
So you've got a dude. Now you didn't know at the time because this kind of just broke, but you've got a dude who's into young boys,
Mm-hmm.
has a daughter, raises her, and she becomes a man, a little
Yeah,
boy.
yeah.
I mean, man, I
I
don't
was,
even.
I was telling that story
Disgusting.
to my wife, and my wife was like, "Boy, the deep psychology in that was it because she wanted more love and more attention from her dad that she
I don't
became
know.
a boy."
I
Wow,
actually feel really bad. I felt
good
horrible.
you.
I felt sick to my stomach last night. I woke up this morning, still felt sick to my stomach. I mean, I'm just picturing. I would. I'm gonna guess that his kids didn't even know.
I
I
bet
would
they didn't.
imagine his wife probably knew, but I don't think the kids knew. And you got to imagine that they're waking up. Maybe they even last night, and this is a nightmare for them, right? They're reading
Right.
about this on Facebook. It's all over the place. I believe uh, he has a kid who's in junior high. So, my God, like they're having to deal with that. And that's what makes him such a sick fuck, is
Right.
because he put his family in this position. If he was some carpenter, some regular Joe out there in the world, this would not be an issue. It would not be all over Facebook. If he was your clerk at Fred Meyer checking out the groceries,
But
It
Chris,
is what it is.
this is a guy who actually has access to autistic children, very vulnerable, impressionable, easily manipulated people, autistic people, and he's in charge. He has access to these people. I'm telling you, I'm willing to bet now that this has come out, we're going to see one of those cases appear here. I
I
just
don't
just
want to.
because I
Oh
don't
my
want
God.
to, but I'm just telling you this. You know how these predators are. You know how they behave. And if he's done this once,
Yeah.
he's done this again. And because he's in a position of authority, and we're just finding that out, there's going to be someone who's going to say, "Yeah, I got to call foul too because he did the same thing to my kid," or the kid will speak up.
I mean, they have a behavioral health clinic. Like,
Yeah,
how is, sir, in this picture? What's his name? Lance?
Lance
Lance.
Nelson.
Sir Lancelot, please explain to me how it is healthy behavior to molest little boys when you're a youth pastor, when you're a counselor. I mean, when did it stop, Sir Lancelot? When did it stop? It's absolutely disgusting. And yeah, like why would you think that you should be in that position? You know? It's like
Exactly.
the guy at SWAC, at Southwestern Oregon Community College,
Yes.
decides his career path, he wants to be in charge of the GED program after molesting
Right.
girls that he was teaching back in Eugene. And
Right.
and it's not just the situation where like this guy here as a young stud, 22-year-old hooked up with a 14-year-old, which is not okay. But let's just say he did that. And it was just a thing that the town knew about. And he moved away, changed his life around, became a youth pastor, turned his whole life around. And now he's, because you have like, you go to Alcoholics Anonymous and you've got former addicts there, right?
Right.
Like that's a thing. That's an okay thing in society for people to be redeemed and to counsel people on how to change their life and be better people, right?
Right.
But not if you were the counselor when you did it. Not if you were the youth pastor when you did it. Not if you were the teacher when you did it. Redeeming yourself doesn't mean you get to go back and start all over and do it again, because those victims don't. They don't get to start their life over and not get touched by you. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I am fuming mad. I've been mad since last night, since reading about it. I've been mad and sick to my stomach. These sick fucks need to get out of our society. They
Yep.
need to get out of these positions of power, and I'm going to do everything that I can to make that happen. And I know
Yes.
you are, and I know other
Yes.
people are, and we all need to work together to do this, because like there's been no press release today.
No,
The Waterfall Clinic knows about this.
you're damn
If they
right.
didn't know about it yesterday, they know about it today. There's been no press release. He has not been put on leave. There's been no emergency board meeting convened. This is bullshit.
I called them, and and I got to HR. I got to the lady who was taking the phone calls on this issue, and I left a message, and I still haven't received a phone call. So I have not found out anything, whether he's there, whether he's not there. But you're right. You think they would be releasing a press release, because I've already had several posts where people have said that not only did their family go see them, but their sons have gone to see them because their sons have had mental issues. And like Cheryl Rennie is just saying right here, autistic children sometimes are non-verbal. And that's the worst part, because if you were targeting people, wouldn't you target someone who could never turn you in? That's really a sick thought.
It's crazy. And the more I look into it, it's like there's no need to look into it. Once you start, it's like immediate full stop. This guy needs to go. He has no business being in this position. No business representing the health of our community. I mean, read some of this stuff. He engaged in sexual conduct with two minors, middle school to high school age, encouraged, observed, and joined in masturbation. And that's just the beginning. Again, you start going further into it. And
Well, here, it was approximately 1998 to 2001, while in the position of trust as a youth pastor, licensed, engaged in licensee engaged in sexual conduct with 2 minors, middle school to high school age, in his care, including encouraging, observing, and joining in masturbation. Due to their connection through the church, licensee remained in contact with the minors as they grew up to illegal adulthood. In approximately 2003 and 2006, after he had begun graduate school for his counseling degree, licensee provided counseling services as a graduate school intern to one individual, now an adult, with whom he had engaged in a conduct described in paragraph 3.2 below and 3.2 above. I'm sorry. And so there you go. Yeah, this guy is a complete and total, lack of a better word, douchebag, a degenerate. Wow, this is just sick.
He's crazy. I gotta go get my dogs. They're going absolutely nuts. I'll be right back in 10 seconds.
You got it. You got it. And so, when I put this stuff on the screen, it's shocking, but you guys got to know that this guy right here, this Lance Nelson, he held a position of authority. And he used that position to go after other people, because I wasn't the only person he had gone after. There were others that he didn't like in the community, and he had targeted them as well. And I find it absolutely repugnant that you have people who are willing to use and abuse their position of authority. Then we find out that they're perverts using that authority again to molest children. This is disgusting. This is the worst kind of molester, because we put them in charge.
It's crazy. He's got no business, and the Waterfall Clinic has no business continuing to employ him, continuing to protect him. I almost don't want to know how long they've known about this, right? I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they just found out about it. But if they've known about this for a while, they should be shut down.
They should be shut down.
All of their contracts with the county and the federal government, they get lots of funding. It should all go away. And we should give it to somebody else who knows how to run an organization, who knows how to pick the right type of employees and counselors. But again, now I'm hoping that they didn't know about it. I'm hoping that they just found out about it last night, and they are scrambling to figure out what to do, even though you don't really need to figure out what to do. It's pretty obvious what to do, but it's crazy. I mean, I'm reading this article. It says over the next 2 years, this is after 1998, Nelson frequently invited the victim and 2 other boys to his living area at the church and coerced the boys into sexual acts.
After church.
Yeah. And then it continues. He goes on and he becomes a counselor, and it's crazy. It's disgusting. It's unforgivable stuff. You don't come back from this. Again, some people would advocate that they should die. Others would say, he can be redeemed, but
he can be redeemed. In fact, here's the thing though, Chris, people are going to argue, we got to give him a second chance. Let's just leave him in that position because nobody has complained on him. Let's just leave him in that position and let him.
No, that's crazy. That's a full stop. No. Those people are cuckoo in the head. You can say the guy can be redeemed, give him a job doing something that does not involve a position of authority over children. That's what you do. And you can redeem your life by doing those other things with your life. There are other things to do than be in a position of authority over children. I'm not in a position of authority over children right now. Are you at your job? Is your wife?
Not unless I had my kid. I was not in a position over any youths. So yeah,
I would say the majority of the people I know are not in a position of authority over youth. Right. And they live long, fulfilling lives. They're happy people. They're quality members of society. And you don't need to be CEO of the Waterfall Clinic. You don't.
No.
Especially if you're a sick pervert.
And then to come after
mental.
People like me. But then do you see how these are the guys who, this is the same type of people who are coming after me. Sal, what's his name? Sal Carruthers, Cameron Langley, this guy here. It's like they're all sexual deviants, and they've got a problem because we're calling them out as sexual deviants. And yet the authorities are listening to the deviants over regular people. And I'll give you an example of this. the port of Coos Bay is stopping the sale of the Gideon's boat work to another person because that person has been accused of being a white supremacist. Just accused of being to me, I don't even care if he is. He has a right to freedom of speech, but he's not. He hasn't broken any laws. He's certainly not molesting children. But this is who they give credit to, these leftists who are the degenerates over a guy who's been in business for 20, 25 years here in the community. This is the sick shit that's going on.
Well, it's abuse. It's like an abuse of, I don't know if power is the right word, if you want to
Yeah,
give these liberals power, but essentially you're saying, hey, I disagree with you or something you did, and it's not quite illegal, but I'm going to use all my power and my magic to make sure your life is effed. And it's
right,
like, no, if the Gideon Boatworks thing you're talking about, if that guy, if he's such a bad racist, and I mean, there's laws about racism that you can't like point blank not hire somebody because they're white or not hire somebody because they're black. Like
right,
if there's a way to prove that, you're in big trouble, right?
right,
There's sexual harassment laws and things like that, right? So if he broke the law, you can prosecute him that way, and he can have consequences for it. But the thing here is he didn't break the law,
right.
but they're still trying to find a way to hurt him, and that's crazy. Um, it's absolutely nuts.
It's upside
Um,
down. It's upside down. Our priorities are completely skewed when once again, we're allowing the sick, deviant predators to be put in positions of authority because they're DEI hires. And I don't know, this guy probably wasn't a DEI hired because he comes across as the straight white male,
he's
even
pretty
though,
diverse. I don't
but
know anyone in my circle who touches little boys, so that's diverse to
that's
me.
pretty diverse. And maybe I don't know if they hire on that anymore or not, but
It's a handicapped, in my opinion. So he's the disability
definitely
hire.
the
Yeah. It's
disability.
like a mental handicap for sure. If
Yes.
if you like touching little boys, there's certainly something disabled in you.
I'm telling you, there are going to be victims stepping forward. I just see this already. And just the way,
Makes me
oh,
so
and by
mad.
the way, after he attacked me on the radio station, he didn't realize that when he wrote the email to the radio station that by law they have to give those complaints to me because it was a complaint on me and the FCC requires that. And so I took that complaint and I posted it everywhere. And Matt Wilbanks wrote an article on it, which was really great. But then he writes the station a second time claiming to be the victim. Oh, see, I told you he was going to come after me if I did this. I told you he was going to use his authority to take me down like everyone else. And I didn't do nothing but put the story out. I didn't contact his clinic. I didn't ask anyone to be removed. I just put the story down as he wrote it. And once again, he claims to be the victim.
That's crazy. He's
Yeah.
yeah, he's certainly a victim. Yeah, Lance, I hope you're watching, and I hope you come after me and Rob here. Bring it,
Yeah.
you sick bastard.
Yeah. And let me put that back on there because I want everyone to see this guy's face. I want everyone to know who he is. And I'm one of those who I don't hold grudges. This guy hasn't even been on my radar for the last 2 or 3 years. And then all of a sudden last night I saw that post that you just put out with the licensing certificate. That was just mind blowing. It was like, it's almost like if you wait long enough, all the people you have said all along were dirtbags turn out to be dirtbags. You know what I mean? It's like, and they get proven to be dirtbags.
Well, and where are these activists? You mentioned them going after the Gideon Boatworks sale, and they're claiming essentially, right, if you're a white supremacist, that you're immoral, right? So that's their thing.
Yep.
Oh, we don't need immoral people in our society, and only sales that affect a port, should be with good, upstanding, moral citizens. Well, where's their fucking outrage with stuff like this?
Right.
Where's their outrage with the moral impropriety with the Southwestern Oregon Community College guy?
Right.
Nothing. There's silence. They're crickets. If anything, they're probably going to come after me for going after this guy and
That's what
going
they'll
after
do.
the Southwestern Oregon Community College guy.
Yep.
I mean, we have a director of the GED and tutoring program who worked with minors after going to prison for molesting his minor female students in Eugene. That's crazy. And yeah, there's no activists. We're the only ones. We're the only ones who are actively pursuing that some consequences come to that guy, that he should not hold that position anymore. It's a public university. That's bullshit. My tax dollars should not be going towards
No.
paying a child molester to teach minors,
And the
to
way
be
that
in
the
charge of
board,
their GED program.
the way their board treated you, and the way they especially treated Mr. Brown when he attended that board meeting at SWAC, is, you know, they act like they want to hear from the people, but then when the people show up, they tell you what you can and can't say. They limit your
Yep.
time. They
Yep.
shut you off when you're in middle speak, and it's like every single one of these board members should be removed. And you've got
Yep.
until the 20th to sign up for that board right now. If you're tired of
10 days.
SWAT and Waterfall Clinic, you know, they get grants. They get a lot of grants. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to do a little research of where they're getting these grants, and I'm going to let them know about this
I'm
Nelson.
about 99% positive they get money from Coos Health and Wellness. They get money
Yep.
from the state. They get money from the federal government. You know, and again, like I want to put out hope there that like they're just learning about this too, that this is this guy's problem, not
Yeah.
the Waterfall Clinic's problem. But man, could that go quick, right?
Yeah.
That's a slippery slope. You know, if we find out that they've known about this for a year and they've been sitting on it, you know, something like that. It's nuts.
And that's the problem with these NGOs, though. We can't get any public records request off of them. We have to find the source document from the government entity that gave them money or grants. Coos Health and Wellness is an example. We can get access to their records, but we don't know who else is giving them money. But we sure as hell can go to the commissioners meeting, and we can put the thumb down on this guy and make sure that they're going to do something at the commissioner's level, because this is why, as much as Coos Health and Wellness would like to decouple from the county commissioners, this is why I've been keeping them together, is because we can go in there and get public records from Coos Health and Wellness. That's the main reason I keep fighting to make sure that they're not decoupled, because they've done that in several counties, and now they're a nonprofit, the organization that handles their Obamacare, and you can't find out shit about any of these organizations.
It's crazy. I also just want to point out, I don't know if anybody is going to think this much into it, but they might be thinking that there's a little hypocrisy here, right? Because we brought up the Gideon Boatworks thing, and there's an accusation that the guy trying to buy Gideon Boatworks is a white supremacist, and we're mad that they're trying to stop that, yet we're here simultaneously mad at this guy trying to prevent him from holding a job. The
Right.
difference, and they both receive public funds. The Gideon, what's his name?
Gideon
The-
Boatworks.
Who's trying to buy it? Or I don't know if we
Oh.
like want to.
It's Witt Industries.
Witt Industries. So you've got this company who's being accused of being racist, and they have had, because I was in the North Bend meeting, they were saying that this company has received money from North Bend, money from the port. So both of these situations, you have public funds going to these private organizations, and you have people at the top who are being accused of being immoral. So it seems the same, right? Here's the difference. This guy is interacting with minors, with his victims, and
Right.
he's facing legal consequences for what he did. The other accused from the company trying to buy Gideon Boatworks has not faced any legal consequences. He has not been accused in court of any of the things that they are saying about him.
Right.
And the commonality would have to be that the Witt Industries is trying to buy Gideon Boatworks and control like an all black something, like an all black port, and he's some racist who hates blacks, and he's trying to work with like a bunch of black people, and people are like, hey, that's the guy who hates blacks, he shouldn't be around them, right? Like, so it's apples to oranges. It's not
Totally.
apples to apples.
It's
Does that make
totally
sense to
apples to
explain?
oh, no, no, no. And anyone who doesn't get it, they're obviously out in left field, because we're talking about the difference between someone's personal private opinion and someone's direct actions. You can't even compare the two. Someone is actively molesting a child is completely different than someone who believes in that people aren't equal based on the color of their skin. And it maybe, maybe there's that would be a very good philosophical question. What if we found out somebody was a pedophile, but they've never acted upon it
Yeah, in thought, right?
and thought?
So say this Lance guy at Waterfall Clinic has a sick mind, but he's never acted on that sickness.
Right.
Totally different story. And how would we ever know? But
We
maybe he
wouldn't.
went on a podcast and he talked about it. Maybe he made a flag of it and held it over a freeway. We don't know, right? But it would definitely be weird, but people could
Right.
argue, hey, he's never acted on it. He's never been caught with a little boy.
Okay,
This guy
let's go
has.
ahead. Well, wait a minute. That is a very good deep philosophical question, because as a libertarian, I would say if this man would have, like you said, let's say he wrote a book talking about his feelings, sexual feelings towards children, and he wrote a book and said, I have never done it. I've never acted on my desires. Nobody's ever accused me. I've never been charged. And he wrote this book by Lance, and we're in the same position now where we have this guy who wrote this book. I, as a libertarian, would actually have to argue that if he hasn't done anything, he's innocent until found guilty, right?
Freedom of expression, freedom of
Right.
thought, freedom of speech. Sure, we'd be defending the guy. I'd be really upset with him
I
because
would
I'd
be
think
really
that's really
ticked off.
bizarre and unnecessary. Like when you, as a little kid, think, "What am I going to add to society?" He's like, "Oh, I'm going to write a book and explain how pedophilia is okay as long as you don't actually touch them." Like that's
Right,
freaking weird. But to each their own. But that's not the situation. And the other
right.
guy, the Wit Industries guy, apparently has expressed some opinions of his that other people disagree with, that I disagree with. He has expressed opinions apparently that white people are supreme to other races, and he should judge people based on the color of their skin. That's ludicrous to me. I think it's also immoral, but he's entitled to those opinions,
Yeah.
and he from what I know and from what I've heard, no one has accused him of actually acting on that. They've found
Nope.
no circumstances where he's, fired people, not hired people, whatever. If anything, they found the opposite. From what I've
Right.
heard, he
He's got
has a
several.
diverse workforce.
He has a very
Right.
diverse workforce, so that cracks me up. But yeah, this was like the situation when Rod Taylor was wanting to have prayer at the county commissioners meeting, and one of the reasons I said I didn't want prayer is because then you're going to get a Satanist come up here, and the Satanist is going to want to read from the Luciferian Bible his prayer, and you guys are going to go, well, we can't have that, and then I'm going to have to stand up and go, wait. If you allow one person's prayer, you have to allow everyone's prayer. And then I'll be up there defending the damn Satan worshiper. So that's why I fought so vehemently not to have prayers, just so I didn't have to get up there and defend the Satan worshiper. And I would have done the same.
It's also just inappropriate.
It
It's
is.
just inappropriate. I mean,
Right.
the first thing you think of is separation of church and state. That's how it was supposed to be. But also just, if you want to pray before the meeting, like if the meeting starts at 9:00,
Yeah.
why not have a meeting at 8:55 with all your Christian friends and you can pray before the meeting?
That was
But
my
see, because
suggestion.
these type of people don't look for compromises, they're trying to push things on you. That's the difference. And when you're trying to push something on someone, you don't think of a compromise because you're not trying to compromise. You want to push that shit on people. So, anyways,
which
it's
is the reason the
not
trans
appropriate.
agenda and the gay agenda really is about normalizing pedophilia in many ways. they keep normalizing each extreme to the nth degree. Eventually you get to the point where, oh, pedophilia is okay too. They're just children attracted people, and that's all they are. It's just natural. We just should accept that at the party, and then P Diddy can get out of trouble. I mean, that's and obviously it's a situation because that's one of the things he was accused of as his party was having underage kids there doing things they shouldn't be doing with adults. It's what a bizarre freaking world we live in.
It's really bizarre, and I'm starting to get really fed up with it. I mean, it's like you go into it and you find one case and then another, and you try and like it's natural to try and rationalize it and be like,
Right.
okay, well, like the Southwestern Oregon thing is like an isolated incident, and you try and figure out a way that it sort of makes sense, or it doesn't make sense, but at least it's isolated to one part of the community.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you start finding out that this is like happening often, and that these people are being protected, and that there's this it's a really even when they are kind of like pushed out of the community, it takes a really long time and a lot of effort. And it's like,
Mhm.
why? Why would
Right.
you
Right.
why would you want someone like that in your society and in your community? Like, if you sat down and you dreamed up the perfect community, why would you want a youth pastor who molests boys?
I swear, if they would have caught Jeffrey Dahmer in the summer of 2020, you would have had people coming out saying, "Well, we need to protect him. He's a diverse class, unique to himself." I mean, he is eating ethnic people, so
He's just misunderstood,
he's just
you know?
misunderstood. I could totally see people coming out defending this guy because of the wackiness that we've got going on, where that's the problem. Everything is acceptable and nobody wants to judge anybody else. And that's the last thing we could have. And Ayn Rand even used to say, if we can't judge people based on our own rational thoughts, then you're never going to be able to discern between the good and the bad.
And that's where we are right now, and it's everything Ayn Rand warned us about and many others. We've got lots of famous authors that spilled their heart and soul into books, poured their whole entire life into it to warn us about what could happen to this wonderful country if we let it. And we've let it. We've Every single one of us has played some role in letting this happen, and we need to reverse that quickly.
I got some comments I think we need to respond to. Separate. This is from Oregon Outlaw. This was the gentleman who accompanied you at the SWAC board meeting. He was the one who got escorted out. He says
Oh, yeah.
separation. So separation from church and state was to protect religion from government, not protect government from religion. And you can sure tell the lack of God when you have your government full of child predators. And in a way, he does kind of maybe all that getting rid of God out of the government has caused this. I don't know, but it didn't seem to help the Catholic Church much. So I don't know.
You can still bring Christian values into the mix though. Like it's the
Always.
it's the faith and the belief portion, or like if you're a certain type of Christian, you're like a Catholic, Roman Catholic, the sacraments and all that sort of stuff. That's the stuff that definitely has no business. Like, what are we going to give people the body and blood of Christ? Give them the
Yes.
host and stuff like
No.
in the middle of meeting? No, that's crazy.
We'll
You
do it
can't
like a
do that,
Pentecostal service. We'll do it. Can I
right?
get an amen from the audience? Amen. Hallelujah.
Like,
Uh,
and then we're going to take a 5-minute break to hear from the
yes.
Baptist choir,
From
and
the
they're all going to be
Baptist choir.
clapping,
Let the
and
black
like,
girl
no, we're
sing. Let's
not going to
do it.
do that because that's not appropriate and doesn't make any sense. But you can
But
instill Christian values, again, kind of like thinking about merit versus the DEI stuff, right? So think
totally
about the merit of the Christian faith, the values that the Christian faith seeks to instill in people. Bring that into government. Hell
right.
yes.
Yes.
Absolutely bring that into government.
Yes.
But if people have a certain faith, you can't push faith on people. The whole premise of it is that they have to have it. You can't give it to them.
Right.
You can
But we
witness
all,
to them, you can try and give them a new vision of the world, but
you
they
know,
have to accept it.
the 10 Commandments are something that's many religions have a form of. Many religions have a form of the Ten Commandments, and I think you go through the Ten Commandments, we can almost agree on all of them. I think everyone would pretty much agree on that. And like you said, what's meritocracy? If it has value and it's been tried and tested over a millennia, then why the hell not keep it in there? Uh,
Right? I mean, even like thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not
yeah,
covet thy neighbor's wife. Like those are good ones. But even
those are
like
good.
keep holy the Sabbath. You don't have to make it the Sabbath. You don't have to get it down to your knees a certain time of day and worship a certain direction. But maybe it's a good idea to take a break from your week and like
That's
be
exactly
contemplative and think about where you're going, where you've been. Like that's a good thing.
totally.
That has merit.
That
So
totally has
yes,
merit.
absolutely.
Yes, I agree with you. Okay, James says, can you imagine what is on his phone? Can you imagine what is on his home computer and in his house? You need to make a voluntary list of protesters and at all times have at least 2 protesters at his location. That'd be interesting. Yeah, I bet you he does have stuff on his computers. I'd be willing to bet that. I bet you he's erasing them right now.
I don't even want to go there, and I leave that sort of stuff. Like that's why I support law enforcement, and we need to have a well-funded and educated and trained law enforcement division within our society that looks into that stuff and handles it because facts need to be facts. But yeah, it's not good. It's
Right.
not good to allow somebody like that to not have consequences. And I understand why these people waited so long. I mean, that's not something you want to go tell your parents about.
No, young
Um,
men especially, I can understand, right?
but
I mean,
I don't even know
that's
what that
something.
comment is.
Hand,
What
hand
is?
oh, handling snakes. Oh, like, that was goes back to my Pentecostal combat.
Oh, okay. I'm
My
thinking of the sex guy touching little boys and snakes, and it's getting weird
no,
in
no,
my
no.
head.
That had to
But
do with
the
my
snakes for the
Pentecostal
church
comment.
makes okay, way more sense. Yes.
So I live
Snake
not far
charming.
from Taylor, Texas, and if you not Tyler, this is Taylor, Texas, named after a family namesake, and
Oh wow.
they are known for every spring. I think it's in the spring. They have the rattlesnake roundup, and they still have Pentecostal Southern Baptist people out there who are snake dancers and snake charmers, and it's quite interesting. So yeah, East Texas, Louisiana, very devoutful people. So devoutful they're willing to get bit by snakes or not get bit by snakes, depending on how much of the relationship they have with God. So it all depends. It's an interesting. Like I always
That
enjoy the.
kind of like is that kind of like witch hunting? They throw the witch in the pond, and if she floats, she's a witch. But if she drowns, she was human.
Kind of, sort of
Like
the same
snakes,
thing.
like
Yeah,
if you've been blessed by God, you don't get bit, or I don't
you
know how
don't
it
get.
works,
That's
but
right. The
yeah,
preacher, the preacher would have he would be doing the dance with the snakes, and if he didn't get bit because he had so much faith in God, God kept the snakes from biting him. But there's a way of handling snakes so they don't bite you. So
yeah.
it's one of
Which
those
which
things.
brings us back to Lance, who knows how to handle snakes,
Who
apparently.
knows how to handle
You know,
snake? Good. I love how you brought that right around. Oregon Outlaw says milestone comes to mind when you speak of pedos. Yeah, millstone. Sorry, millstone comes to mind. Yes, I agree with you. Was the counselor in question at Coos Health and Wellness fingerprinted as a youth pastor? If he was, why didn't his record disqualify him from getting the counseling licensing and job? Was it ignored? And the guy at Coos Health and Wellness, you mean the guy at the Waterfall Clinic? I think is what
yeah,
he's
yeah.
talking about.
Hi,
Uh,
Doug.
Doug, this didn't come out till yesterday. Nobody knew that
Yeah, or
this.
the furthest back we know that it was acknowledged was in 2023 by the counseling board. They had knowledge of it and did a 2-year investigation. But um, yeah, it certainly wouldn't. I don't think he has a criminal record. I haven't even looked because I just assumed that this was recent. But
Okay,
I don't. I don't think it.
if he had a 2-year investigation, how could the Waterfall Clinic not know about this?
You'd think so, but I don't want to. I don't want to
Yeah,
go there if they haven't.
I want to cast
Um,
aspersions.
I'm hoping for the best because if they didn't know, it's easier for them to get rid of them right now, like today. Like it should be happening right now, people. It's so easy. You say, "Bye, get the f out of here."
Right.
Like it's that easy. Why
It
is it
shouldn't
not
be
that easy?
hard. I know. Yeah, I don't know if I had a guy who's working for me and I find out, wait a minute, you're a pedophile. It would take everything I could to hold myself from knocking the shit out of this person. Okay. I mean, I would, I couldn't have, I had to fire a guy once because he was, well, he was a misogynist. He was very rude to the women. He was very handsy sometimes, but he was a really good salesman and was a commission salesman. So it always sucks because it's always your best salesman who's the wacko in the group. And so I had to fire this guy because of that same type of reasons. But it just, where are the men? You know what I mean? Who is standing up for this shit?
We've suppressed them. We live in a society right now that talk about Christian values and things. We've destroyed the traditional family. We've
Yeah.
destroyed men in society. We've empowered single women. It's supposed to be like this amazing, cool thing you do. You get to be a single mother and raise children. It's like that's so cool. No, I mean, like, that is cool if you accomplish that and you had
Right.
no other option. And there are lots of men out there who suck. So sometimes the better option is to not be with those shitty men, for sure.
Right.
However, in general, we need to make sure we have quality men out there who can be fathers and part of society and raise children and participate in this community and society. And we shouldn't have shitheads like the guy at the waterfall clinic being those leaders, these strong male role models who
Right.
touch the
Right.
little boys. That's not okay.
So, and that's another good point, though. These young men grow up thinking this is the role model for me. This very, because he even looks a little feminine to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe now that I know what I know about him, but even back then, I thought he was a little bit of a pussy. Okay, he looked like a pussy, and it just makes me mad that these are the role models that these agencies are putting forward for these kids. It's I don't know. I think of the men in my life who had taught me things, and I think of big burly big ass dudes who could care less about your feelings. Nobody want, you know what I mean? It's like, this is what we're going to do, we're going to do it. And it's, I don't know, we're just losing that today because now everyone wants to talk about your feelings, and that really worries me when you got people like this in positions of power talking to children about their feelings. that that's sick, man. That's really sick.
What is I didn't get that comment, but all right. Both
Well, let me hear. I'll take that back.
Southwest.
Did
Oh,
we read that one? Okay. I don't know if I read
I
that.
didn't.
All right. I can't. Hold on.
Yeah.
It says it destroys a lot of children if they have to deal with what happened to them for the rest of their lives. A lot of times they turn to dope and other terrible things to deal with it. Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem with the drugs. I think a
And they're
lot of
mistrustful of men. They're mistrustful of anyone in authority. I mean, that's not good for society.
no,
It's
not
just
at
like
all.
what it when you go to a counselor, what do you need? You need trust to go to a counselor and for
Right.
them to be effective with you. How can you trust someone like Lance when he abused the trust he had as a youth pastor and as a counselor in his early years as a counselor? Like you can't. That trust is gone forever. It's gone. Same thing if you send your kids to Southwestern Oregon Community College, you need to trust that you're sending them to an organization that cares about them, that's going to keep them safe and is going to be dedicated to their education and nothing else. And
Yeah.
instead you're sending them to an organization that cares more about giving Curtis Buell a second chance because he just didn't get a good go with his first chance when he was in
Right.
Eugene and he decided to molest his female students.
Really sick. Jeff Pete says both SWAC and Waterfall have a huge liability no matter which way they decide to go, fire or keep. They are probably going to get sued. And that's the other thing is now you got these guys who will get fired justifiably because they're kid diddlers, and then they sue. Oh no, we're victims, and then they'll sue the Waterfall Clinic, and these clinics, because they're so afraid, or these organizations, they'll settle with the pedophile. I don't know.
They will. It's sick. They probably, and that's part of what they're, if they have any like morality, it's because they're conflicted and they're sitting there going, well, shit, if we fire him today, we're going to waste a bunch of taxpayer money, right? If they fire Curtis Buell, he's like tenured. He's been there like 14 years as
Yeah.
a director of adult education or something, pre-college and adult education, GED program and tutoring. He's been there for 14 years doing it. So firing him probably comes with consequences no matter why you're firing,
Yeah.
unless they're walking through the halls and they see him in a classroom with a minor right now, which for me and you, we don't know how that's any different than knowing that he did that back in Eugene years and years ago.
Totally.
If they found him doing that today, he'd be fired. He'd be arrested. He'd go to prison. So why is it okay that he's teaching? It's crazy. Our problem is that we think about things.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, tell me about it. That's true. Doug Farrell says we have been fingerprinted as volunteers for church working with children. Teachers are fingerprinted as a matter of course. It seems to be unbelievable that he had no record. And Doug, I do find it unbelievable, but it does happen. And I got news for you. I was a volunteer for the Bandon School District. They didn't do a background check or fingerprint me.
It's hit or miss because I volunteered as a track coach and in California, and I got background checked. I got background checked for and fingerprinted for working for the state parks. So I don't understand why some like Bandon don't. I mean, they need to screen for people who have histories. I mean, like, and what if it's a recent history? Like what if you're currently like on trial for this stuff,
Well, then there were times when we would go on field trips and parents would volunteer, and there would be like 3 or 4 of our of us parents. And in that situation, I could understand them not doing a background check or fingerprinting. But for what I was doing, the coaching and the reading to the kids, volunteering in class, that I just assumed I would have gone through fingerprinting and background check, but I didn't.
Well, if people want to look up and see if he has a record, because it's complicated, right? You can look in Oregon, but then there's other states.
Right.
You have to, Lance Nelson is probably a pretty common name. So you've got to know his date of birth, his middle name. So if people want to know, his full name is Lance Edward Nelson, born in 1971. And if they want to go and do research, you can absolutely go do some research. And maybe he does have a record out there somewhere. I think he was in like Utah or Idaho. So he moved here, at one point. So maybe there's some skeleton in his closet from out there. As I'm talking, I'm pulling this up on the Oregon website, and he has it looks like a marriage dissolution in 2022, but I don't see any other record.
Oh, because he was
like
married. He was married at the time that he complained on me, because I remember something about his wife and daughter.
I mean, the sick thing is that he was married and impregnating his wife and raising young children while these events were occurring.
Yeah.
He's pretending he's a family man, he's a youth pastor, he's a church godly man.
Right.
And he's living this dual life. So he's got some sick problems that I don't think really you can ever rehabilitate from.
If he dressed like a clown and had bodies in his basement, we'd call him John Wayne Gacy. I mean, at what point, it's Jeff P had a good, he says,
he didn't kill the people.
Well, he didn't kill the people, no, but yeah. That's why I said the bodies. If they had bodies,
you just scarred them for life.
You just scarred them for life. Jeff Pete says
maybe Gacy did a better job.
Well,
sorry,
that's
I keep
the
interrupting.
thing.
Go ahead. We're
no, but that's that's what they do. They kill people so that the victim doesn't go on. This guy was obviously not a criminal genius, but Jeff P says, I had to get a background check to be a volunteer in my own son's classroom. And I can believe that. Yeah. And Phil Taylor says, I can't even volunteer at my kid's school without fingerprints and a background check. I don't know.
Yeah, which is a good thing. It's
Which is
annoying,
a
but it's a
damn good
good
thing.
thing, right?
Right.
Like we need to know. We need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's even legislation. There's a senator, or I don't know if she's a senator or what, for Oregon. She's in the Oregon Congress, from Bend. She's a Democrat, but she's trying to get a system set up so that when anyone comes to visit, as soon as they come to visit and they hand their ID over, they can do a rapid check on someone who enters the building to even know if they're a sex offender, and like a level one, or
Yeah.
what I think level 3 is the highest. So like a level 1 would be a lower sex offense. I don't know what that would be besides a level 3, but maybe nonviolent. But anyways, right now you can only do that on level 3 sex offenders, which is like 2,000 out of the whole 32,000 in the state. So
Right.
when they're screening people at your kid's school, they're only screening the like worst of the worst of the
Worst.
worst.
Right.
They're the violent ones. So they're going to let the ones in the school that are like more creepy and manipulative, they're going to
Right.
get into your kid's head and not be violent with them, but they'll still touch them, which is somehow better.
In their minds. I put up the reason you see that screenshot, that is Senate Bill 821. And this is a request from Tina Kotek. And if you read down here, it's relating to sex offender risk levels. It says the act takes away the deadline for the parole board to assess some sex offenders into a risk level. The act also repeals the sunset on the law that makes the board report to the legislature on risk level assessments every 2 years, removes the deadline by which the state board of parole and post-prison supervision is required to assessing existing sex offender registrants into a risk level, repeals the sunset on the requirements that the board report biannually to the Legislative Assembly on risk assessments. And so therefore, you're going to have people who are committing sex crimes who now don't have to report as unregistered sex offenders, and they're not having to report as much to the parole board. How do you like that?
It's crazy, and it's obvious that they're making this a sanctuary state. It already is a sanctuary state for
Yep.
sex offenders, but it's going to become even more of one. It's already a sanctuary state for criminals. We are a sanctuary county for criminals,
Yep.
and it's getting worse and worse and worse every single day. Like literally every day, it's getting worse. This problem is getting worse as we speak, and yeah, the people on the other side claim that thing you were just reading is in response to the backlog, right? She's just trying to help the backlog. She's actually trying to help. It's like, if you're trying to help a backlog, why don't you like put out marketing and PR about bringing new parole officers into Oregon.
Right.
Take some of the homeless money, the funds that they're sending around to build like little pallet houses. Give moving bonuses to people to come move to Oregon and be parole officers so they can review these cases and get back on track, right? We should be doing that for public defenders as well, because we have a lack of public defenders. She's not doing anything about that because they're sick. They're sick in the head. They don't care about this society. They're messed up. They have a really messed up view of the world that they want to live in. It's a bastardized form of altruism, and
Yes.
they don't get it. And somehow they've convinced enough people to vote for them, and they are in power, and we're just two idiots on a internet podcast.
Right.
So
Right.
let's change that someday.
Well, here's the funny thing. You were talking about altruism, and Ayn Rand didn't believe in altruism. She believed everyone did everything that they do is for some reason, for their personal endeavors.
Should be for some reason.
Yeah, it should be for some reason. But this type of altruism, I'm going to have to go read some more Ayn Rand, because this is beyond just giving to the needy. This is giving to the people who are already stealing from you, giving to the people who are already raping your children. This is beyond altruism. This is way beyond altruism. You know what I mean? There's got to be a term for this other than fucking nuts. Okay. This is beyond just crazy. This is, I don't know.
Altruism implies that you have some like moral desire. You're trying to be
Right.
moral. You're trying to do the right thing, but you're not thinking objectively about it. So accidentally, you're doing the wrong thing, right? Like
Right.
you're working against yourself. You're trying to create a better society. You're trying to be a good person. You're trying to do the right thing. But in doing that, you kind of didn't think of the whole picture, and you're kind of screwing other people over in a way you didn't really imagine, and you're blind to that, you're ignorant, so you're not really worrying about it, and that's how you do a lot of damage. But yeah, we're far past that. This is like sadistic altruism. This is like people who have used altruism and emotions and the Democratic Party platform and bastardized it for their own sick pleasure. That's what we're dealing with. People, like, if you're a Democrat and you're just a regular old Democrat, I have no issue with you. You know, we could probably go have a beer and agree on a lot of things. The problem is, if you're part of that far left cult, or even if you're part of the far right cult, if you're part of a cult that just believes in shit because you feel that it's like so amazing, and you feel righteous about it, and you're not really thinking about what you're doing. You're not thinking about how your choices and all of our collective choices are affecting the world and affecting society. You're not thinking because you're part of a cult, and part of being a cult is you don't think. They do the thinking for you, and they tell you how to think and feel and what to shout, when to protest, when to revolt, all the stupid shit they're doing right now. Like, they go down to the boardwalk and they hold signs like "fuck Elon Musk." Yeah,
What?
fuck them. What's
I
that
know.
going to do for your bottom line?
I know people are gonna. I never thought of that. Fuck Elon Musk. Yeah, I never thought of that. I think I'm gonna stop supporting the Trump presidency. Yeah, I don't see people driving by
Well,
getting inspired by that.
if you think about it, they're frustrated that all the fuck Trump stuff they didn't work. The
Right.
man came back from the dead and beat your stupid ass,
Yeah.
and now you need a new guy to pick on, right?
Yep.
So his rocket blows up the other day, and they're like, yeah, but they're the same people who like wore a NASA sweatshirt 6
Yep.
months ago, and they're like, we need
Yeah.
to go to Mars. They probably own a Tesla that they just lit on fire just to spite the man.
If Elon was smart, he would change his colors for his company to yellow and blue, and they would
They
support it.
couldn't win. That's great.
That'd be
Oh
hilarious.
man.
Jeff
Right,
P
like these
says,
people. Oh, go ahead.
no, you go ahead. You were probably going to make a salient point.
Well, I was gonna say these people are all about climate change, right? These same
Yeah.
people. That's why they supported Elon and Tesla, right? Like
Yeah.
they want that. They want the electric vehicles, and now they're getting rid of them and burning them. Like, what are you do you think, what is the carbon emission from burning down a Tesla dealership?
That's
Come
got to be
on,
huge.
people.
That's
That's
got to
so
be huge.
toxic. There's
Yeah.
lithium batteries in there. That's not good for our like, it's so wasteful. Yeah, these people, they don't, yeah.
It's like
They're not.
protesting abortions by killing a baby. I just, it's strange. Jeff P says probably why South Carruthers moved here. Probably. Phil Taylor says, here he goes. I'm thinking a box truck with pictures of the local high profile pedos on it driving around town is a good idea. That could be interesting. That would be damn interesting. I wonder if you could face any liability to that. Yeah, that'd be cool. Oregon Outlaw says it will never change as long as we keep relying on politicians to fix it. We, the people, need to stand up. And well, he didn't finish that thought. And we get a big heart from Jeff P and LOL from Oregon Outlaw.
All right. Hearts and laughs. There you go.
Hearts and laughs. But I had to bring you on because I didn't know whether you knew my history with Mr. Nelson.
I didn't. I saw your post today, and I was like, wow, like, isn't that crazy?
Isn't that
before
wild?
I forget though, Phil Taylor, right, just commented.
Yeah.
And we're talking about like how to make this better, how to fix all this. And Phil Taylor, I believe it's the same one. He's running for CCAT. the
Yes.
transportation board. So like there is a man who is like, yes, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to do something because right now we have a way to do it. So if you're pissed off about the Southwestern Oregon Community College situation because they hired a sex offender who they knew was a sex offender and they put him in a position of power over young females, which was his go-to victim. Anyway, so if you're mad about that, you have 10 days to file to run against the four incumbents who are on that college board. And it's a board of 7. So if we get 4 new people on there who don't agree that sex offenders should work at the college, then maybe they could come up with a policy that plainly states that. And then you
Yep.
can walk to Curtis's office and hand him the policy with his termination notice. You know what? And we also need people who aren't afraid of the lawsuit.
Yep.
I'll help fund that lawsuit. If the college gets sued for firing him, I will donate to their defense because that's crazy.
And it seems like they would eliminate that liability by creating a policy that's a general overlapping policy for everyone, the entire college, so they can't say they're discriminating against him. You just created a policy and, well, oops, I guess you violated the policy by diddling kids. Sorry, you have to go.
Yeah. I mean, I could see some legal precedents for like if I get on the college board and I push this policy, right? Because I've been outspoken about him in particular. Now we're getting into some gray legal waters, right? Was that my intention? Was specifically to get him fired, or am I talking about sex offenders in general? But that's why I went to the college a couple weeks ago and I asked them during that meeting where Tom Brown got kicked out, and I asked them to create a policy or to even look into it. And I offered help, which they said they don't need. Very sassily, the chair of the board didn't want my help, but
Obviously,
yeah,
they do.
they do need it. Yes, they
Yeah.
very much need help, not just from me, but from a lot of people. But anyways, they followed up with an email that said no, they're not creating a policy. That apparently their policies conform with state and federal, policies,
Right.
Title IX and all that. So nope, they're not going to do anything extra because, that's the type of people you want in power, right? The people who are not going to do anything extra. They're not going to go the extra mile. They're for your children, for your kids who are going to Southwestern Oregon Community College. You want people who are just going to follow state and federal guidelines and not go the extra mile for your kids, right?
Well, Chris, why would I want to send my daughter out of state to get molested when she could get molested right here in my own town? Damn it.
Yeah,
you're just not thinking of it.
And you can be there for when she,
right. I can
explains what just happened to her.
Right.
And
I go, but honey, that guy, he needed a second chance. I mean, I'm sorry, we need to give people like him second chances so he can molest your children.
Let me just clarify. He got a second chance because he had 2 victims. So after he was done molesting the first one, he could have stopped. But nope, he had to go molest the second one. And then because I've investigated this, I know that he went a couple weeks later back to the first one. And then a couple weeks later back to the second one. So he's gotten like 4 chances by now. So I'm going to drop an F-bomb. Fuck you, Southwestern Oregon Community College Board. Fuck you, because you guys are disgusting people who are enabling a child predator. Sorry.
No, not sorry at all. That was it, and it's beautiful. Before I get you out of here, is there anything you'd like to say?
And you need to get me out of here.
Yes.
I'm going to go have a beer.
I got to go. I just did an interview for an hour and a half, and I don't know if you saw that.
Wow.
Interview. That guy was interesting. He was something else.
I will have to go back and watch it. I'm on a fitness kick, so I went out for a run today because it was like nice weather, and I did a little walk jog, and then came back and did yoga for any fitness people out there. You can always start over. But anyway, so I'll go back and watch the show. What was it about?
It was about hydrofuel, using ammonia to power ships and facilities.
Oh, wow. I think my fridge uses ammonia because it's like propane. The propane has a little pilot light, heats up ammonia, and it goes up and down, or I don't know, totally know the engineering behind it, but it creates cold.
I didn't either. And someone contacted me and said, hey, this guy's got this great equipment, And he comes on here and he claims to be a conservative. He was quoting Milton Friedman, but yet he was pissing all over Donald Trump. So I was confused. I was like, wow.
Oh,
So,
well,
but
not
to
every
each his own.
conservative's the same, you know.
No.
As long as you talk about merit, tell me what you don't like about Trump specifically. Like, what's he doing that's affecting our country,
Right.
your business, and then we can talk about it. But if all you've got is, I just don't like him, okay, maybe he
No,
doesn't like
this guy,
you.
I didn't find this out until about an hour and 20 minutes into the interview. And I'd only had him on for an hour, or scheduled for an hour anyway. So I was like, boy, this is because we really got into politics. He says, man, I can't keep doing this. I'm going to destroy my company's reputation. I was
Oh
like, well,
no.
we'll get you on next time without your company's name and talk politics. He says, I'd love to. This would be great. So
Very
he's a
cool.
Canadian. Those Canadians, what can you do?
Canada, eh?
Canada.
Oh, and
Hey,
right now, Canadians, we don't have the best relationship with them. Thanks, Donald.
well, and yeah, that's what I think was going on there. I don't think he was too happy with Americans right now. So yeah, it was interesting, but it was good seeing you.
Cool.
I'll probably see you on the 17th if I don't see you before then.
The St. Patrick's Day dinner.
St.
Very
Patrick's Day
cool.
dinner. The Republicans. I'll be over at the Heron. So
We're gonna try and make that like a bigger thing.
cool.
So we'll see. But anyways, I'll see you. Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me on the show.
All right, you take care, man. Talk to you later. All right, and that was Chris Castleman, as if he needed any introductions. But I had to get on here to really, I'll tell you what, Lance Nelson, you tried to get me kicked off the radio, and you failed. You cost the radio company $1,300 a month of advertising that came from the Waterfall Clinic, who probably got that money from taxpayers like me. Well, I can assure you, Lance Nelson, this isn't going away. This isn't going to be easy for you. And I can assure you, Lance, we're going to make life much, much more difficult for you. So you might as well kiss your wife and your child and find a first bus out of town. If you got a car, pack it. Get the hell out of town, because I'm going to make sure everyone knows your face and your name and your reputation. And yes, I'm making it personal. You came after me because you personally didn't like my political opinions. And I tell you right now, I've never gone after anyone's private business. I've never gone after anyone's job, no matter how much I disagreed with them, unless they were a politician. And then I have a right to go after their job. I think it's immoral to try to make people unemployed because you don't like their political opinion. That's what you did to me. That's what was going on. It was cancel culture. And you tried to use the tax monies that you received for your nonprofit organization, your non-government organization, the Waterfall Clinic. You tried to take that money that you received from taxpayers and you tried to use it as a blunt force object to take me off the radio. Well, I can assure you, sir, I'm going to make sure everyone knows your name, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows your story and they know your face. So get out of town. That's my advice, because nobody wants you here. Nobody needs you here. And if we do find that there are victims from here, yeah, I'm going to make sure they prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. I can assure you, our district attorney does not like child molesters any more than I do. And I can guarantee you, she will prosecute you. And I will be there in the court to cheer it on. So, Mr. Lance Nelson, you've got some problems, and we're not going to put up with it anymore. And that goes for Curtis Bueller from the SWAC campus as well. You're a pervert. You need to go. And we're not going to take it anymore. So Doug Farrell has commented. He says, the dinner will be at Coach House on the 17th. Yeah, Patrick's Day at the Coach House. I'm sorry. I was thinking as the Blue Heron. You are correct. It's at the Coach House. We're all going to be meeting at the Coach House on the 17th. I believe that starts at 6. We're going to be doing St. Patrick's Day there. Ought to be a good time. And let's see, I do have, let's see, I got to put this up on stage. There is an event coming to Oregon. Dr. Frank is going to be here. Dr. Douglas Frank is going to be in Lebanon, Oregon. He's going to be at Lebanon, Oregon to talk about election integrity. And this is happening on the 12th. That's this Wednesday at 6 p.m. And I'll tell you what, this guy does an incredible presentation. If you want to see more from Dr. Frank, go to my Rumble channel, and I've got his video where he debated a gentleman who disagrees with his findings. And Dr. Frank does a pretty good job of handling this guy and taking down his argument. And that you can find on my Rumble channel. If you go to Rob Taylor Report on Rumble, you can see that video. But if you want to meet Dr. Frank in person, I'll show up at Lebanon, Oregon at the Lynn County Conservative Alliance. That's the people who are throwing it. And they're having this event at 2562 South Santiam Highway, Lebanon, Oregon. And yeah, that ought to be a good event. That ought to be a good one. Let's see, what else do we have going on here? What else did I have planned for today? I don't think we have a commissioners meeting tomorrow, which means we don't have a Coos Bay meeting tomorrow night at the city hall, which means we probably don't have a Bandon city council meeting tonight. So no meetings to report as far as that goes. So it looks like I just need to do a commercial. And of course, you know my favorite commercial. Yeah, here, I gotta get that. It's this one. Let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the. I'm sorry, that wasn't the advertisement, but I like advertising that anyway. Cash doesn't. All right, 3H Tree Service. Great sponsors, great people. If you need to have some of those problem trees taken out of your yard because they're a liability, you got branches hanging over your neighbor's garage, you got a tree that may come down on your house and it's a liability. Let's say it's got bugs, it's got disease, it's rotten from the inside out. It's kind of like an Antifa tree. That's right. It's an Antifa tree. Well, you want to take those suckers out, and who can do the best job? 3H Tree Service. They come in and they remove those trees with surgical precision, and they clean up after themselves and leave a beautiful yard with a great view where that tree used to be. And you can give them a call at 541-294-1800. They've got a really cool video on their Facebook page of 3H Tree Service. It's a really cool video. Them taking out a couple of trees. That's all their videos are really cool. So I highly recommend it. But 3H Tree Service, if you need, let's say you got a small area that you want logged, they do micro logging. Yes, they can come in and take out those trees and do a good service for you. Once again, 3H Tree Service for all your tree needs. And let's see, Tom and Gigs. I was talking to Tim over at Tom and Gigs this last week, and boy, he's busy. He's busy. He finally got a new mechanic over there, but his mechanics are great. They're very well qualified in taking care of your automobile. So if you need your tires aligned, you need struts, you need shocks, you need to put a new muffler on, they can take care of you at Tom and Gigs. He's also the largest distributor of RC cars. You know, those little neat remote control cars, and he's got more than just the cars. He's got boats, he's got helicopters. He had a guy on a surfboard. It looked really cool. I thought it was really cool. I think it would be very interesting to have one of those remote control boats. I'm still thinking of going out to Mingus and reacting a couple of war scenes. That I think that would be really cool. But if you want to get one of those RC cars, head over to Tom and Gigs. They're at 135 South Shoneman Street in Coos Bay. That's right behind the car wash in the Empire neighborhood. And you can give them a call at 541-888-4660. Once again, that's 541-888-4660. Herbal Choices. For all your herbal needs, you need some cannabis. Well, you need to go to Herbal Choices, and they have 5 wonderful stores to choose from. You can find out more about their business at or the herbalchoices.com website. That's right, the herbalchoices.com website. And remember, you must be 21 years or older to even enter an Herbal Choices, because that's the law. And you have to obey the law if you want to shop at Herbal Choices. Herbal Choices for all your herbal needs. And remember, on Wednesdays, it's Wild Wednesday. That means their wild gummies are on sale. Yep, they're wild gummies on Wild Wednesday. And they're going to be having a big sale on St. Patrick's Day. So usually they'll probably happen a couple of days before St. Patrick's Day, and then on St. Patrick's Day, get a little green for the green. I tried at Herbal Choices, and like I said, they do have 5 stores, one in Charleston, one in Coos Bay, one in Bandon, south of Bandon, beautiful store down there, one in Reedsport, and of course, one in North Bend. I highly recommend for all your herbal needs, Herbal Choices. And if you want to join the only no compromise gun group in Oregon, then you need to join Oregon Firearms Federation. They've been fighting for your Second Amendment rights in this state for over 30 years, and they're going to continue that fight even after this legislative session is over, and they've gone further at trying to take away our Second Amendment rights. You want to keep your guns, you want to be able to defend yourself and your family, I would highly recommend joining Oregon Firearms Federation. And you can find out more about Oregon Firearms Federation at OregonFirearms.org. They're not my sponsors, but I always like to recommend Bandon Gun Club. Bandon Gun Club right here in Bandon. If you want to hone in your firearm skills, if you want to go to the pistol range, or you want to check out their 5-stand shotgun trap shoot, they got it. And they can take care of it. Find out more at bandongunclub.org. I'll probably be going out there in the next week or 2. Yep, I need to go out there and hone in some of those skills. I need to turn some money into noise. I need to go out to the Bandon Gun Club, and you can too. Just find out more at bandongunclub.org. And of course, if you want to sight in your rifle, or I should say sight in your telescope on your rifle, you can go to Taiga Sports Park, where they have a 100-yard firing range where you can shoot your rifles, sight in your telescope, and find out more at taigasportspark.org. Once again, that's taigasportspark.org. And I highly recommend, if you want to stay tuned on what's going on in our area here in Coos County, I would recommend joining Coos County Neighborhood Watch. They are the top group as far as what's going on here with crime. If you want to know who's committing crimes, where crimes are being committed, I would recommend Coos County Neighborhood Watch. Now, if you're one of those people who just want to go there and bitch, complain, and moan about those of us who are going after these criminal derelicts of society, well, you're probably going to get kicked off. So don't even bother. Don't even bother, because we'll kick you off right away if you're just going to go there and complain because we're doing something. We're active. We're proactive about keeping crime out of our county. We got to do everything we can, because the state has sabotaged the justice system. We no longer have a justice system in Oregon, and it's up to us citizens to protect ourselves. It's not vigilantism to protect yourself, your family, and your neighborhood. It is not vigilantism. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You have a right to protect your family. You have a right to protect your neighborhood. You have a right to keep the dregs of society from coming to your house, coming to your neighborhood, and destroying it. You deserve better than that. Your family deserves better than that. And so that's why I'm glad that Coos County Neighborhood Watch exists. It was a group created um, in part by Matthew Wilbanks and the Holman guys. They helped all create this, and they've been participating with this for a long time. So I recommend you go on Facebook and join Coos County Neighborhood Watch. It looks like I got one comment over here, and that's Jeff Pease. He's laughing. LOL. I don't know what you're laughing at, man, but I hope you had a good time, and I hope you all enjoyed the show. And Lance Nelson, if you're out there, you scumbag, we're going to find you. We're going to see what you're doing, and we're going to let everyone know what you have done. So you cannot get away from the people of Coos County. We know where you are at, Lance. We're going to be watching you, you pedo, allegedly. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do a Friday night rant this week. I didn't do one last week. It just depends on what kind of mood I am. But look for it. Do look for it. If you want to find it, it will be on Rumble. It will be on Patel Vid. You want me to do the Patel Vid again? Again? Okay.
Let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the
All right. Yeah, I just love that video. Yes. Thank you. Yes. That is something to laugh at there, Jeff. That good Patel video. And let me see. I don't need to get that up. Let's play some music. Here we go. You know that sound. It's about time to get out of here. I had a hell of a time today. It's been fun. I really enjoyed it. And I'll see you next Monday. I think I got an economist coming in. His name is Lauren, and he's been on my radio show a couple of times. He's a really good guy, and we're going to be talking about the economy, what the Trump administration is doing to the economy. I think we're going to be talking about that next week. I really hope. It's, these guests, it's not easy to schedule them for the live shows because, Monday at 3:00, everyone's doing something. So I'll probably have to record that, and there'll be another recording. So I'll mix that recording in with the live show in case we get any other news stories, because you know how it is. On Mondays, we always get a lot of news stories. So I can't just do a recording. I got to be part of the show live. I got to be live. I got to tell people what's going on, man. And you might want to find out what's going on in your neighborhood. Who knows? So until then, folks, you know what I always say. Carry on, Coos County. Carry on.